Okay, perfect. There it is. We're recording now.
All right, well, welcome everybody. I'm Fred Cosmo. I'm the interim chair. My first meeting as interim chair. Happy to do it in these trying times. And we're glad to have such good participation, not only from the board, but from all of the public members. So thank you. We like that. And we've got a lot of good reports over the last month about our committee meetings and having public participation in all those public meetings. So thank you. We really appreciate that. And I'll make the announcement right in the beginning. I want to make sure that everybody knows that we are recording the meeting, and that one of the things we put into place to be transparent and keep the public informed is that we record, now that we do these via Zoom, we record the meetings, and they're easy to record, and then we post them on our YouTube channel so that so the public or people that are not available to see them can watch them at a later time. All right, so with that, I'm calling the meeting to order. And the first agenda item is to approve the agenda. So everybody's had an opportunity to review the agenda. Does anybody have any additions or deletions to the agenda?
I'll make a motion to accept the agenda.
Okay, Margaret, motion by Margaret. Do we
I'll
have a second?
second.
Okay.
Do you need help?
No,
All right.
Okay, well, one,
It was actually something.
No, I tried that.
Sarah
'cause
is
you-
not, you guys need to mute.
Okay, well, put in.
Tina, can you mute yourself, please?
I think what happened was that
Who, me?
I can do it.
change.
There it is. I got it.
All right.
Sarah is not able to attend. I got a last minute text. Is someone willing to take a few notes? I know she can go back and watch this, but I think we should be taking minutes and have the, because those are specifically the written record. So we're getting into something we're going to take a vote on and approval. Would someone mind doing that, please?
Hi, Corla. Sarah had reached out to me. I thought she was going to be in on the meeting, in and out, but I would be willing to keep count if she's unable to do the secretary duties today.
Thank you, Mandy.
You're welcome.
All right, so we have a motion by Margaret to accept the agenda. Do we have a second?
I had a second on that.
By Robert Jackson. Okay, perfect. All right, all those in favor?
Okay, click on your buttons. Click open participants. And at the bottom of participants is a yes green check and a no red X. And let's vote that way so we can know what it is.
Oh, I can see those.
See it? Yeah. So count them up, Fred.
I don't think I get to vote, but we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think we have 7 yes and no no's. So carry 7-0.
Okay, Robert, are you not voting on the agenda?
I second, but I voted yes.
All right, then make it 8-0.
There
Right
it
there
is.
you go. Okay, sorry about that.
Okay. Perfect. Okay, so the next, even though Sarah's not here, the next agenda item is to approve the meetings from the July meeting. And so everybody's had an opportunity to review those. Does anybody have any comments on the July meetings minutes? I don't see any comments. Does anybody
I'll
have
make a motion to accept the meeting minutes.
Okay, motion by Margaret. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Corla, okay.
Everybody vote.
All right.
the thing. And there's Mandy.
All right. All right, I think we're 8-0 again. All right, perfect. Okay. All right, with that, we're going to do officer board reports, and really, I guess I'll start off as the chair. And I said this in the beginning, so I won't repeat too much. But been interim chair for a month, but it's been an exciting month and a lot of activity. And really, the committee chairs, Margaret, Mandy, Mark, and a lot of the board members have been very active in the last month. And so I really, really appreciate everybody jumping in And I've got a lot of good reports about the community involvement, and I feel like there's been a real positive energy for the board, and we're starting to get things to move and address issues that have been dormant for a long time. So my main thing to say is just say thank you for everybody stepping up and doing such a great job over the last month. And I've also announced that we're going to post all our meetings. We got our YouTube channel, and we're taking steps to try to have, open communication and transparency with the community. So with that, David, you're the first, so I shared. You want to make any report on anything you got upcoming?
Tomorrow I am participating in Fred's stead in something called the OBPL Leaders Meeting that I think is being organized by the Point Loma Association. And I'll report back. I'll probably send an email since we don't meet for another month. I'll send an email after that as to what was discussed.
All right. Well, I appreciate you covering that, David. All right, Corley, you got a treasurer's report?
I do, quick and easy. Our balance is $657.81. There's been no activity since last month. And we got an email recently from the city, and I think there might be a new procedure for reimbursement, but I'm not sure. I reached out to the contact person to clarify, so I will update everybody on that.
Okay. Well, that's good. Sarah's not here, so no secretary report. So is Tony on the call or on the Zoom?
Not yet. I didn't see him in. He registered, but
Yeah.
he hasn't joined yet. So he may come in later. I don't know.
Okay. Well, just we'll use that as a tease. I know I had some discussions with Tony, and I think a lot of people have questions for the city, and Tony's our city planning connection. So he's been invited to the meeting. He's registered, and when he gets here, we're going to have Tony make a few comments, and we can ask him questions about what's going on with the city and what's going on with the various planning departments. But he's registered but not here. Lucky, good to see you.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now we lost it. That's what
And how'd your dentist appointment go today?
It was everything the Three Crowns should be.
Okay, good.
Oh, God.
All right. So we'll come back to Tony if he shows up. So I think we will move to non-agenda public comment. And Corla, do you have a list of people that want to make a non-agenda public comment?
I had someone, I had someone, Barb Franklin emailed me at the last minute with a really long list of questions. And if somebody will time me 2 minutes, I'll just start in with reading off until I get to the end. Is that all right?
Okay.
All
All
right,
right,
ready?
go.
All right, she says,
Good time.
Barb Franklin says, no, I'm removing the 30-foot height limit, even if it's just midway area. I don't care what you put out there, just not over 30 feet. Designs are awesome, but can't do it there. If buildings are high with the FAA, will it send more aircraft over Point Loma? We get notices about blackouts. Can you imagine life with 15,000 more people here, thousands more in Mission Valley across the city? What's the plan how to provide more electricity? Same for water. What's the plan to provide adequate water to 15,000 more in the peninsula? Is there a new police department being built? Schools, where do visitors, elderly moms, kids park? So even with people staying home, there's a bottleneck to get in and out of Point Loma. How long will this take? You can't widen Nimitz. It's small enough with bike lanes added. We now have Liberty Station and Rock Church and US Navy and thousands of support workers jamming our roads. If the airport is expanded, we may not be able to use Harbor Drive. 2 main roads, Catalina and Rosecrans. That's it. We'll be held hostage trying to use and supply our homes. Is that the goal? Where are the studies detailing the environmental impact from this? How can you assure San Diego will be able to continue to have access to enjoy our beaches? Why are we not doing promised infrastructure improvements and hiring people out of work? Why are, I remember someone running for mayor and saying they would fix the roads. We have grass growing through our streets. If you can't keep up now, how will you do 18,000 more in just our area? SDSU is building a stadium. Do we need too close together? Take this beautiful design and put them somewhere else in the east side of 5 freeway. Okay, I'm still going. I feel our city reps are punishing us because we live in a beautiful area. Instead of protecting it, we're being sold out. Your legacy is at stake, so make the right decisions that represent the people that live here and are affected by this. Whew. Okay.
You've got 2 minutes.
Wow, that's because I went fast. So I've reached out to Barb on that, and I'd like to ask her to participate in some committee, get involved at the committee level, and or maybe a little more emailing if she can't participate, so that maybe we can get some ideas coming in from the community and maybe better serve that in that way.
Okay, well, I appreciate you getting us through that. Okay, so do we have any other public comment? Or do you have a question, Mark? Go ahead. You're muted.
All right. I just want to throw a quick shout out. I've been on this board for 3 years now religiously, and I am so happy and pleased to see Ocean Beach and Midway stepping up and joining these meetings. And DK and Tracy, I can't thank you enough for joining the committee meetings for the Peninsula. I feel like we're honestly bridging a gap of communication that was much needed for many years, and a level of support that's also needed amongst neighborhoods and communities. So I've been so pleased to see the participation from you two. I had Kathy Keaton at my meeting last night, which was so awesome as well, to really, get the chairs working, get community members working, and neighbors. I can't preach that enough, but I just want to throw a quick shout out to you two for participating in these committee meetings and also our board meetings. Thank you. We're in this together, and I can't preach that enough, so I appreciate it.
Well, thank you, Margaret. I 100% agree. I mean, I think, yeah, Ocean Beach and Midway are definitely our neighbors, and we care about both of them. We spend a lot of time in both those areas. So Tracy and DK, thank you for participating.
There's lots to be concerned about. She didn't bring up the 4,300 units that's going to go in at Riverwalk next year.
Yeah.
Looks
We
like
have a lot to contend with.
All right. Any other public comment?
Fred, DK's hand is up.
DK?
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. I'll just sort of, in some ways, respond to Margaret's comment. I've been a resident in the Midway area for 6 years now. I've been on the community planning group board for about 2 years now here in Midway. I've been vice chair for just a few months, but to the best of my ability, I've always tried to come out to the Peninsula events, the OB events. I think, Fred, the first time I met you was actually at the Candidate Forum, which is one of the last sort of real life events that I was able to attend before the pandemic shut everything down. So in a lot of ways, I guess I just kind of want to echo Margaret's comments. It's an honor and a privilege to be able to serve my community and to be able to be a neighbor to you. And I'm glad to be here this evening. In addition to my role as vice chair of the Midway Community Planning Group, I'm also heavily involved in the actual ballot measure campaign to lift the height limit here in Midway. And so obviously I respect everyone's different opinions for whatever various sort of backgrounds or reasons you're coming at them from. But I just wanted to make sure I introduced myself and made you all aware of my role. And if anyone has any questions, I'm happy to answer them, whether it's here in this format or I'll put my contact information in the chat box here, and I'm happy to connect at anyone's convenience to discuss how vitally important we, at least here in the Midway community, feel it is to raise the height limit and to give us that opportunity to really redevelop our neighborhood here. So thank you again, and like I said, I'm happy to be here this evening.
Thank you, DK. David, do you want to make a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to tell DK that he wins the prize for the coolest background.
Okay.
Thank you very much. I stole it from my mother, actually.
Okay.
That works.
All right, Ron, did you want to make a comment about what's going on at North Chapel?
Yes, thank you very much. First, I want to again thank the Peninsula Community Planning Board. You were first to come forward with strong statements, and ever since then, over the last 3 years, your voice has been heard loud and clear, and we greatly appreciate your support. The latest is that after the plan was submitted to the city as required, this is what they came back with, which is, I don't know if you can see that, but anyway, it's a picture of the gutted North Chapel, which is what we were fearing from the very beginning. And so a very detailed plan has been put before the city and the Historic Resources Board as required, because they need now to get a building permit. And point by point, their plan was rejected. They wanted to remove the pews. That was rejected. The altar, the kneelers, the communion rails, all of that was rejected by the reviewer. They wanted to remove the organ, keyboard, console, and bench. And this, what they call a reviewer's issue, this was not allowed. He said they should all remain in place. They also, there was a small wall that separates the small chapel from the main sanctuary. They wanted that to be removed, and that was rejected. So to summarize it, I'm just going to read the summary that came from this city statement that, again, the Historic Resources Board. It says the project presented is not consistent with the Naval Training Center guidelines for the treatment of historic properties and the U.S. Secretary of the Interior standards due to relocation, substantial alteration, or demolition of the resource. Therefore, a site development permit process 4 is required to be submitted to the development services. And as I've read into it, I'm sure some of you know much more about process 4. It's a much more detailed permit process. It will end up with the Planning Commission with the right to go to City Council if the decision doesn't come on either side's way. So we continue our efforts. We felt very good and pleasantly surprised that the Historic Resources Board would go completely against what was considered an approval by both Sacramento and Washington, because it's my understanding that if the Historic Resources Board is presented with this kind of approval from on high, they just have a very difficult time going against both California and in Washington. And in this case, it was, as far as I could see, a blanket disapproval. So at least now we're back in the public view. I've been assured that they will not be able to secretly go through this. And I will certainly keep the board well informed as the next step takes place.
Ron, on behalf of the board, we appreciate it. I know you did come to us early, but the board has been very, very concerned about this issue. And so appreciate you keeping us updated.
Yeah, well, I've heard a lot. It was after, they don't seem to appreciate my efforts. So they hired their big attorneys from downtown and sent me a notice that after 8 years, they're not going to renew my lease at Liberty Station, thinking maybe they could shut me up, but they never met my dad. I was raised by a father who, among other things, showed us that if you have something you believe in, you don't get shut down by anyone. And but again, I think it's also community organizations like yours that have made it a lot easier for me to grit my teeth and keep on going.
Okay. David, did you have a comment?
Ron, were you a tenant of the foundation or a tenant of the for-profit operator?
Well, I'm in the art district, so I am theoretically a tenant of the NTC Foundation. Unfortunately, because of the strong connection between Macmillan and the foundation, we as artists have never seen much of a difference. And the CEO of the NTC Foundation was an executive for 7 years with Macmillan. Things changed a lot when she came on board a couple of years ago.
Who is that?
Boy.
Oh, never mind. I can figure it out.
Yeah, but Lisa, oh gosh, that's terrible.
Don't worry about it.
Yeah, but there were, Sandy Pilardi was head for 2 years. She had been an executive. And then the current president and CEO of the NTC Foundation was an executive. And We have, for many, many years, the artists have attempted to speak with the board, to actually go to a board meeting to share one issue or another, and we're not allowed to speak to them. I have had only one board member in my 8 years that ever came to Open Studios. I've attempted, especially after getting this letter. Oh, Lisa Johnson is the name of the CEO. But after getting my termination letter, I consider it an eviction, but because they can't evict me right now because of ordinances, I'll call it a delayed eviction. I, through letters, emails both to the management as well as to their attorneys, I requested that I speak directly to either the chairman of the board or anyone on the board to find out if, among other things, if they were involved in this decision. But those who have watched this, and I certainly think it's just a retribution for having spoken out against McMillan all these years.
Is there anybody else who's similarly situated to you, been either not renewed or putting up a fight over non-renewal?
Yeah, well, there's probably 10 or 12 artists who are no longer in the arts district, and some were pushed out. Some just left and paid dearly. I think one artist had to pay $10,000 in back rent to fulfill her lease. We all made a lot of noise because the district really was shut down, where all the barracks are locked now, and we're saying, how can you continue to insist on full rent when no one can get into our studios unless they call? And of course, we've always depended on people just walking by, walking in, but there have been, I think I'm the one that was particularly pushed out, but there have been others that have had a lot of pressure on them.
Let's talk about this offline. We got other stuff to do tonight, but I think I might be able to get you an audience with the chairman of the board down there. So we'll work on it offline.
Okay, that would be very nice. Thank you, Dick.
All right, any other non-agenda public comment? Corla?
As long as nobody else is going, I would like to say a couple of things, please. The Ocean Beach Planning Board has taken a position on the MOU. We've learned some other information since then about what it actually means, but their position statement is that they refuse to support that MOU or anything permitting whole home rentals until existing code enforceability has been settled, and until the mayor elections, and until the communities have been given a seat at the table with competing interests such as vacation rental platforms. I think this is an issue we're going to want to take up as our board as this goes through. It was short notice that 2 PCP board members were invited to a meeting with D2 on June 26th. The MOU was signed on June 24th. Okay, and then I have comments personally. I attended the city council meeting where city council chair Gomez was commented, they were discussing putting Measure E on the ballot, which it is on the ballot. Her comments were she's not necessarily against raising the height limit, but I strongly agree with her objections to the process on technical reasons. Gomez says this is a big deal with great transformation to the area with a value aspect. She also said it is immoral and concerning and not transparent, having brought this forth by city council. Prop D was a voter initiated initiative, and therefore the change should be brought up by voters. These are Gomez's comments. Personally, I'm opposed to the exemption of the 30-foot height limit in the Midway district. This board traditionally disapproves of exemptions and variations because if you allow one, more will follow. If you give a mouse a cookie. And while my opinion has recently been categorized as fear-mongering, I continue to respect everyone else's opinion and their right to express that opinion.
Okay, any other non-agenda public comment? All right, seeing none, we're going to go back in the agenda. Tony, so good to see you.
Yeah, good to see everybody. It's been quite a while. Good to see that the planning board is up and operating. It's been a little dark for a few months, I know that. And some other groups have had some difficulties, getting into the virtual medium. So glad to see everybody's doing well and fully operational. It's really good.
Yeah. And I know that there's been a lot of interest in the board, and we're glad to have you here as a city representative. So yeah, if you want to tell us a little bit about what's going on in the city and what's the city plans for the boards and that kind of stuff, and maybe we might have a couple of questions for you.
Okay, well, I staff the CPC, and Corla, I know, has been going as the Peninsula representative for the past 2 meetings, and they've been very involved with the Complete Communities program, which involves housing, mobility, and infrastructure. And basically, they've had a lot of issues with the recommendations put forward, and they want to put a hold on it to have the planning groups review it a little more. So that's their position on a lot of the stuff. At the last meeting, a lot of people were astounded that in single family districts that a lot with a single family residence could actually create 3 dwelling units, which would be, it would be the single family dwelling unit, a accessory dwelling unit, a junior accessory dwelling unit, plus a tiny house, which does not qualify as either a accessory or junior dwelling unit. So people are saying, well, this means that single family residences and neighborhoods are being transformed into multifamily and that kind of thing. So, it's a touchy issue with established communities and build out communities. But the city has goals for, housing and in order to meet RENA goals. So it's an ongoing controversy, to say the least. Does anybody have any questions about that?
If I could ask a quick question, Tony, I know one of the issues that people ask me about is that as the interim chair, right? When are we going to have elections? Does the city have a view as to when we're going to have planning board elections?
Well, you normally have planning boards elections in March, and that hasn't changed. I had a community in the I-15 corridor that held a virtual, well, no, it was by absentee ballot. But they were somewhat different in regards that they had a very low turnout than you guys have. I mean, Peninsula usually has at least 200 people coming. So this group had probably upwards of 30 people responding to the, elections. So it's a different situation. I don't think you guys want to do that kind of thing, but March is the month that the planning groups hold their elections. So that hasn't changed.
Would a virtual election be allowed?
What do you mean by a virtual election?
Well, like you said, however, these people with 30 participants did it.
No, that was just an absentee ballot election. It wasn't a virtual election.
Okay, would that be allowed though for our group?
Well, like I said, I don't think it would be feasible for Peninsula, owing to the fact that past elections have involved like upwards of 200 to 400 people. So I think it's a major expense for you to send out a 2-envelope ballot, with a return envelope, that kind of thing, has to be considered. So I don't see it happening in Peninsula, but maybe you guys would reconsider.
And could I ask you, the city willing to help our planning groups, since we're all hosting Zoom meetings and it's added to our budget? Is there any financial assistance coming that way over and above the $500 a year stipend we're getting?
Not that I'm aware of. I think the $500 stipend is supposed to cover, expenses of the planning boards, including, Zoom meetings. And correct me if I'm wrong, but you do have a Zoom account now and a license to have the meetings. Is that correct?
I do. I pay for that. I haven't been reimbursed yet, but I've been paying for it. But that's our already strained budget. If we were to have an election, our money would be pretty much gone, and then add $15 a month for a Zoom account. That's pretty much, ruins the budget. Nobody was anticipating this pandemic, of course.
Yeah, another thing that some other groups have done in the past is sort of a pass the hat kind of thing. And that's not disallowed by council policy. So during your meetings, I mean, somebody can say, well, yeah, I pledged so much or this and that, but I think it's more easily done in a in-person format than this kind of thing, because I don't know how the person would follow up on, any pledges or anything like that, but it's something you might want to try.
Yeah. And Tony, just to clarify one issue on the last two planning board elections in the Peninsula, I think we might have had 300 to 400 people vote. So we've had pretty good participation. David, do you have a question?
But Tony, putting aside how we would do it or what the mechanisms would be, am I understanding that if we can come up with a mechanism and we can figure out how to pay for it, that there's a procedure by which we can go forward and have an election?
Yeah, you can. I was involved with a community that did a 2 envelope mail out. They mail it out to the community members who are registered members. And I don't think that's the same situation that you have in Peninsula. So they have a base of registered community members that have voting rights, and they mail out the envelopes and with return envelopes inside, for the people to send back with their choice. So that's how they did it, but it involves, a lot of postage. So in doing that for 200, 300 people may be prohibitive.
Well, that's what I'd say, putting aside the money part of it. And I didn't even know you could have a requirement that people register to be members of your group, and then only ballots would get sent to those people. That strikes me as odd and sort of disenfranchising a whole lot of people. But I guess my point is, even if it was if we could figure out a way to have an election that was quote unquote safe, where even was an election where people came to a polling place and dropped off an envelope or filled out a form, or I haven't put in my head what it would be, but what I'm hearing you say is there's nothing that stops us right now from coming up with a way to conduct an election if we can come to some agreement with respect to how that election will be conducted.
That's correct. Yeah, I don't see anything prohibiting you from trying to do that.
Okay, thank you.
Lucky, did you have a question, or are you?
Oh, I was just going to mention to David that in North Park, David, what they do is they have they put together a list of everybody who signs in as they come to meetings. You have to attend at least 2 during the year, and they put together a master list on that, and that's a voter list. And that list is checked before you'll be issued a ballot, is when you come into to vote. So that does indeed occur, and that's a fairly large turnout election also.
Yeah, well, the thing with that is that you can't direct somebody to sign in to attend a meeting. I mean, it's not something that's enforced.
Right.
Yeah. So it's voluntary.
Sorry.
And
Cameron, hey, Cameron.
Okay, sorry. Cameron, did you have a question?
I do. I'm just a little confused, Mr. Kenton. You understand our election for the board was canceled because of COVID-19, and a lot of our concern is because of COVID-19, someone like me has a pre-existing medical condition. So unless we take certain safety precautions in accordance with the county, we can't hold an election. I think that's kind of the missing piece for me as I'm listening to this discussion is you keep saying that the elections were held in March. Well, when we were getting ready to have elections, COVID-19 shut it down, and the county nor has the city or the planning board given any of the boards any direction on how to hold an election properly. And so I'm just confused. Do we just have to wait till next March and then we have 10 people running, or in this case 12 people running, or are you telling us that we need to come up with our own new way of doing this to ensure safety for all people in the community, i.e. someone like myself with a pre-existing medical condition, to be able to vote and allow our voices to be heard?
Yeah, I don't really have any established sort of guideline to forward to you how to do that. Like I said, there's another community that I'm involved with that did absentee balloting, but I don't see that happening in the Peninsula Planning Board. I think, was it Fred or David mentioned some sort of situation where there might be some sort of in-person thing where people could come, drop in their ballot, having marked it, beforehand, so it doesn't have to involve a return envelope sort of situation. That's something that's certainly worth looking at. I mean, we would leave it up to the planning groups themselves to come up with something that they think is workable.
So is that like covered in instruction, or does like the planning board need to come up with a plan and present it to you, and then have you sign off on it saying, hey, this is a good plan moving forward? Because I know there's several members. I mean, we have I think 12 people who had completed the election process, and so it should. I just need to know, is there whatever process we end up coming with, you know, once the state of emergency is lifted, do we run it by the board, or do we just have an election and just kind of go from it?
Well, I would run it by the city first, because, you know, it's a very unusual situation, and, you know, most of the planning boards, you know, are effectively shuttered, you know, in March. And then we had the directive to, you know, switch to virtual meetings, which wasn't easy. So, you know, we're still sort of in that mode. And I think if you have an idea that you think might work, like, you know, like David suggested, I think that's worth considering. It's something that we would certainly look at. Yeah.
Fred, I think we should table this for now. I think what we can do is perhaps never too many ad hoc committees. Maybe we should have an ad hoc collection committee, or maybe go ahead and form an election committee and have that committee tasked with the job of trying to figure out a way to safely conduct an election before we have to wait for this emergency to be over, and it's possible to have safe in-person elections like we used to, because my guess is that's going to be a while.
I'm comfortable with you taking a look at it. I know as the first vice chair, you're going to be in charge of the election. So if you want to kind of outline an idea, we put that on the agenda for the meeting in September. We could put together an election subcommittee or ad hoc committee, and away we go. I would love nothing more than to be replaced from the board after my term has ended, and I might be willing to pay a lot of money for that. All right, we'll pass the hat to you first. Robert, did you have a question?
Yeah, do we have a record of previous ballots or voting ballots from the previous elections on whom came the vote? Or were they destroyed following?
Yeah, I was the election chair for the last two elections, and I think the bylaws say that the records are to be destroyed 6 months after the election. I think that's it. And so yeah,
that's correct. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
So we don't have a list to go off of where we can maybe expand from. Okay.
Oh, yeah. All right. Well, Tony, we're really glad to have you here. So I'm going to move on the agenda. One of the things that we've talked about, and one of the things I'm going to did was move up the project review, so that people that like Holly Jones is going to have her project review tonight don't have to wait through the whole meeting to do it. So our first action item is project review. So I'm going to turn it over to Mark.
Well, thank you, Fred. Thank you, Tony, for all the information. If you're still there, I don't know if you've left or not.
Hi, Mark.
Hey, we did have our first project review Zoom meeting virtually this last week, and I thought it was a successful project. We've had 2 projects to review and are bringing one forward to the board for their recommendation this evening. This is the Pescadero Companion Unit. We have an owner here with us, Holly Jones is here. So hello, Holly, welcome. Just briefly, this project's located at 4421 Pescadero. Its project's number is 654977. It's a single family RS1-7 zone. It's a real simple 490 square foot existing hobby room that's over the top of a garage to convert it to an ADU companion unit for our community. The little 2-story companion unit's located on the alley and provides parking for 3 cars. And you know, we had looked at it in project review and voted 3-0 with 1 abstention from Corla on forwarding it to you for your recommendation for approval. So I think, is there anything, Holly, that you'd like to say?
No, I think it's pretty straightforward, and I was happy with what we went through last week with you guys.
Yeah, we were pretty happy with it as well. So it was a pretty straightforward companion unit. We could take any questions, Fred.
Okay, any questions for Mark? Eva?
A question for Holly. Will this be used as a vacation rental unit?
No,
Okay. What is the intended use?
well, it has a bathroom in it, and we have 2 kids who are in college, and we possibly might look into traveling in the future. And if we did, we'd probably rent out our main house and kind of come in and out of the guest house. But when I started this project, we didn't have the pandemic, so we could travel.
Yeah.
Now we can't. So, you know, it's, I mean, the intent of using it is to use it, you know, for friends, family, anybody who wants to stay there. Possibly using it for maybe a college student. We're right near the PLNU to rent out.
Any other questions? Corla, do you have a question?
Yeah, I just have a comment. I recuse myself because I know the applicant, but this is one of those situations that these applicants, as many others in the coastal area, have had to pay something like $17,000 to reclassify their existing properties and change it to something different by adding a stove and a name. So that's all I have to say.
Yeah, and that's what the project, what the purpose of it, because as a hobby room, we couldn't have a kitchen in it. And if we were to use it optionally in our future, then we would want to have a range or, you know, something in it like a kitchen. So, and at this point in time, that's all it needs is a range.
Margaret?
Kitchen.
I was at that meeting and I believe you all voted and it passed unanimously, correct, Mark? Can you confirm that for the board?
Yes, yes, we did pass it 3-0 with 1 abstention.
So I'd like to make a motion and they went through this project pretty thoroughly, and the overall consensus of that the project review was to go ahead and pass it. So I'd like to make a motion reading here, for the permit for the conversion of the existing.
Approve the companion unit
Yes.
on Pescadero?
Yes, please.
Do we have a second?
Yeah, I'll second that motion.
Any further discussion? All right, it's time to vote.
Hey, Fred, I'd like to say we don't have those sheets that we have to fill out, you know, for the motion sheets anymore.
Yeah. Everybody go to the participants and vote with your check marks, please.
For the record though, Mark, I would write down the motion, and if you can scan or email it to Sarah just for our files for historical purposes and anyone else on the board, I think it's a good idea. Just write out the motion.
Put it in the chat. Put the motion in the chat, and then the chat record will go to Corla with the recording, and she can pull pull it from that chat that gets downloaded.
Oh, that's a good idea.
I was just saying because, yeah, either way, but definitely write it down somewhere.
Also, an option is to record the meeting, and then you can go back and listen to the recording to get the exact wording.
Mark, you need to vote.
Oh, I haven't voted?
No.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, we'll need to get that down right, especially if we have conditions that we want to add into any of the motions that we make.
All right, so how many votes do you count, Corla?
7.
Okay, I got 7 for and 0 against, so it passes.
One abstention because I know the
One
applicant,
abstention by Corla.
and that the reasons for abstentions need to be notated in the minutes.
And what's your reason for abstention?
I know the applicants. They are former patients of mine.
Okay, perfect. All right, the motion is passed then. Holly, congratulations. Thank you.
Thank you, Holly.
Thank you. We miss you, Corla. Good luck with this council. Good job, guys. Take care.
All right, so So now we're going to move to the board initiated action items. And so we'll start in order. So I think that we need to officially appoint a representative to the CPC and an alternate. And I guess since I've been on the board historically or traditionally, the chair has done it. I've got way too much going on to do it. So I'd really rather not do it. I don't have time to do it. And I know Corla's been doing a good job. So Corla seems to be a natural choice to be our CPC rep. And I asked her to do it before we could, to continue on until we could put this on the agenda. So I don't know, Corla, are you interested in continuing?
Sure, unless somebody else wants it. You have to attend 2 meetings before they give you voting privileges. So I'm at that level, but if somebody else really wants to do it, some of this stuff's way over my head, but
Margaret?
I'd like to nominate Corla, and I would really love to be her backup if the board agrees, because I think Corla you and I have been working really close on a lot of the community issues and piggybacking on a lot of this stuff. So I would love to be super involved in that with you.
I believe we're allowed an alternate. Is that true, Tony?
Yeah, there's a representative and an alternate. Yes.
I'd like to be the alternate. And
okay, well, let's just take it one step at a time. Is anybody else besides Corla interested in being the PCP rep to the CPC? Mark, are you're interested?
No, I just want to say that back in the day, I had attended the CPC for a few times back when I first got on the board, and I found it very informative on what was going on with the city. And what I'm seeing now is a lot of the politicians and a lot of the city representatives that want to speak to the community groups only now go to the CPC and speak to them. So it's important for whoever represents our community to take our point of view to the bigger board, but also to bring back what is going on with some of the other communities and what's going on with some of the city action items that we don't hear about anymore because the politicians don't come to our meetings.
Right.
That's all
well, I agree with that. It's a great comment, Mark. You'll see items 4 and number 5. Corla's brought a couple of issues that are coming up at the CPC for our attention so that she can have some direction on that before she goes. And I think Tony's comment early, the complete communities is a big issue that they're looking at. And I know that's a hot button issue. I know for us, and I'm sure it is. I think it is also in Ocean Beach. And so a lot of people care about that. So
one more thing, Mandy, did you want to go up for it? I know you expressed interest. And you're super involved as well.
I have quite a bit going on. I think you'd be a great alternate to Corla, Margaret.
okay, so why don't we take a vote then on Corla? She's been nominated and Margaret seconded her. All those in favor of having Corla be our CPC rep? Vote.
I'll vote for myself.
Corla, you can vote for yourself.
I did. I think I did.
Yes, you did.
Yeah, I think so. I'm having trouble getting my bearings here. I was looking at something else.
Okay, I think we got 8-0. Congratulations, Corla.
Thank you.
All right. Anybody willing to nominate Margaret to be an alternate?
I'll nominate Margaret to be the alternate.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Okay, Mandy. Anybody else interested in being considered to be the alternate? Okay, seeing none, let's vote on Margaret. All right, well, congratulations, Margaret. I think it's 8-0 as far as I can tell. Perfect, perfect. All right. Well, we'll get to those CPC issues in a second. The second issue is that we do have to officially appoint representative to the Airport Noise Advisory Committee, ANAC. I was at the ANAC meeting last night, and I've been our ANAC rep for the last few years. I'm willing to continue to do it as the airport chair. So if somebody else is interested, you know, we can consider that. But if somebody wanted to nominate me, I'd be willing to continue in that role.
Nominate you, Fred.
Do we have a second?
I second.
Is anybody else interested? Okay, why don't we go ahead and vote on me to continue as our ANAC representative? All right. I don't see a vote by Mark yet.
He's trying to decide whether to vote yes.
Okay, good. All right, I believe that, I think that passed 8-0 also. All right, we need to get an alternate in case I can't make a meeting. And I know that Margaret and I believe David are the two people that are on the airport committee. I don't know if anybody is interested in serving as an ANAC alternate.
No, now I'm doing CPC, so I have to back off that one. But I want to be a member still.
Okay.
Brad's got his hand up.
Well, I'm not volunteering. I was just wondering, is it possible for a community member to be the alternate ANAC representative, or just have to be a board member? I'm just thinking
I don't think there's any bylaws that would prohibit it. So I am gonna nominate a couple of board members, and Paul Grimes and Paul Webb, both long time involved in the airport. So
all right.
I guess we could move to that right now if you wanted to, and then
you're nominating them to the committee.
Yeah, appoint them to the committee, and then
I think Brad's question was, can somebody who is not a member of the board be the alternate to ANAC as a representative of the board?
Correct.
Tony?
I would think no, because you're a sitting member of the board, and whatever you say, you're fully responsible for what is being said on behalf of the board.
I think that somebody mentioned Tony. So Tony's here. Tony's a city. What is city's view on that, Tony?
I would contact Tate Galloway. He's the program manager for the planning department. He would know.
Okay. Well then,
Fred, you're there as a PCB, a Peninsula.
I am, yeah, as an official,
as a representative of our board, right?
The ANAC is made up of a combination of representatives of PCPB, a Ocean Beach, a Midway. The planning boards that are affected by the airport each have an official representative. Jerry Lola was always my backup, and he did a good job. And then there's some community members. So yeah, so whoever would be there would be an official representative of the PCPB.
Jerry is why I asked.
Well, for the near future, I think that I can attend the meeting. So I'm going to go ahead and table the appointment of the alternate for now, ANAC, and we'll move to appointing public members to the PCPB committees. I'll start with airport, and since I've mentioned those, but both Paul Webb and Paul Grimes have been very active, and they've got a lot of institutional knowledge, and they're very helpful on a wide range of airport related issues. And they both asked me and indicated they'd like to be on the airport committee. So I would nominate Paul Webb and Paul Grimes to be on the airport committee.
I'll second. Oh.
Okay, Brad,
Yeah.
Is there any further discussion? All right, seeing none, let's vote. All right. I'm having a hard time scrolling, but I believe that it's 8-0.
Yes, they're all there.
Perfect. All right. All right. Do we want to go to traffic? Let's go to traffic because they have too many people applying. Mandy, you did such a great job. You got traffic people coming out to participate. So let's see what we're going to do.
All right, thank you, Fred. Yes, it's a good problem to have. We have 4 applicants for the traffic subcommittee. Our committee members consist of myself, Sarah Moga, and Margaret Verissimo. So that would allow us to have 2 community members to participate in the committee. We have Paul Grimes, who is applied. He has been a longstanding member of the Traffic and Transportation as a community member. We also have Nicole Burgess, who we all know she's a very active community member and is an advocate for bikes in our community. We also have Matt Shalis. He is a neuroscientist and he works for Boston University, and he's expressed interest. He does participate consistently, as well as Tracy DeZenzo. She is the chair of the Traffic and Transportation Subcommittee for OB Planning Board. And again, with the thought of collaboration, I thought that we wanted to extend the invite to everyone. So she is also applied. That's all I have to say. I think Fred and I spoke and thought that we all need to be aware that when we vote, you only have 2 votes for this portion. So I'll move it back to Fred if you want to facilitate the vote for the traffic.
But before we have a vote, I'm going to open it up for questions because we have 4 people.
Yeah.
Let's see if there's some discussion on that. Mark, do you got a comment?
Yeah, the first, you have 4 members on your traffic committee that are board members?
No, we currently only have 3 board members.
Okay, all right. I thought you said 4. I counted 4, so that my mistake.
There's 4
so
applicants.
There's 2. So
there's
you only
4.
have 2. Okay. Got it.
All right, thank you. Any other questions?
As much as I adore Tracy, she doesn't live in our district, so she doesn't qualify as a community member. I'd love to have her on that, and I hope she will continue to participate, but I think we have to remove her name from the voting list. I'm sorry.
I didn't realize that was a bylaw issue. I participate in the OB Planning Board subcommittees as well.
I think anybody can participate. They just don't have a final vote that comes before. They can express their opinion and participate, and I love that lively discussion, and I love any kind of outside or whatever participation, anybody that's interested, but I don't believe they can have a vote. I think you have to be a board member to vote or a community member to be on that committee.
So
I would like to encourage Tracy to stay involved.
Yeah, we have 2 committees that have non-OB members on it. So, and they're voting members.
Just to clarify, you don't have to be a board member to be on a subcommittee.
Yes, I know that, but don't you have to live in the district?
I don't believe you do.
I would have to check on that.
Yeah, I think that's how we've done it. And OB bylaws and Midway bylaws, everybody's bylaws are a little different and a little individualized, but that's something we should probably clarify then if
I didn't see that in our bylaws for subcommittees that you have to live in the district. It just clearly stated that you be a community member, and she clearly is.
Well,
what community?
How specific? Yeah, David's point. What community?
I've got the bylaws up. I'll look it up.
Okay, yeah.
I have them too.
Bylaws. Okay.
If I can find them, actually. Thought I had them.
Cameron, can you bring me my laptop, please?
Yeah, maybe our bylaws are a little different. I'm not.
The bylaws are on our PCPB website.
I love you too, Corla.
Tracy's my buddy. Cameron just sent a chat to everyone that if there were more board members on the committee, we could have more community members. However, I think that's always great to involve more, but a lot of times, and we're in a pandemic, so everybody's home and everybody's available to come to meetings more frequently. But during normal life, if that ever returns, if you don't have enough people there, you don't have a quorum and you can't function. You can have a discussion, but you can't have any votes. So it's difficult. We've been in that position with long range planning where we had a lot of people interested, a lot of board committee members, and we couldn't make a quorum numerous times. So you got to be careful about your numbers, and that's up to the committee chairs. I'm just saying.
It uses the term committee, it uses the term community members. But the term, of course.
Yeah, I just read it last night, and that's what I read.
The term community member isn't defined.
Nope.
And it's kind of used variously. In some places, you have to be a community member to be eligible to run for the board, which
Exactly. I read that.
In our community. But then it also says that community members will have the right to speak at our meetings. And I think that we allow just about anybody to speak at our meetings, whether they live in our community or not. So the term is used ambiguously. I think we could probably, and I just don't think it's clear at all, whether a person has to live in the community in order to be a non-board member of a also incorrectly described subcommittee. But so anyway, that's my read of the bylaws.
Yep, that's exactly what I read last night. It didn't clearly state that she had to live in our, our zip code.
Well, let me read you this though. Here is something interesting. So it says, this is in the bylaws. It's Article 3, Section 2. And it says, planning board members shall be elected by and from eligible members of the community. And then it says, to be an eligible community member, so it uses that term, an individual must be at least 18 and be affiliated with the community as, and then it goes through the list of, property owner, resident, local business owner, all that stuff. So I think you could make an argument that the term community member, although it's not clearly defined there, that as used in the bylaws, a community member is a person who is at least 18 and affiliated with the community in one of those ways. But that term is also used in a couple of other ways. But more often than not, it really only in one place. There's a place where it talks about community participation in our meetings, and it says that community participation consists of notifying the public of all meetings and inviting attendance. Community members will have an opportunity to speak at all meetings. That doesn't mean that you have to be a community member to speak, but community members will speak or be allowed to speak. So I think probably the better interpretation of the term community members is probably somebody who meets the eligibility to be a member of the board.
Yeah, I would agree with that.
Sorry,
That's
yes,
an area that it specifically states. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
That is maybe the only section in there where it does specifically call out that criteria for what a community member is. But I think it's most applicable into that describes those people that would be able to vote and those types of things. And we're actually talking about a voting position here. So I think maybe that description would be the most applicable.
Any other comments? All right. I guess as a chair, I would lean towards Tracy being wonderful and that we'd like to keep her involved and work with Ocean Beach. But I think that safer is better than sorry. And I think that for now, I think we should stick with the three candidates of Paul Grimes, Nicole Burgess, and Matt Chalice.
That's good.
Thank you, Tracy. So, Mandy, do you have a recommendation as a chair? I mean, it's your committee, and I want you to be happy. You're doing a great job, and obviously, I'd like all three of them to all participate. Do you have a recommendation, or do you want to make a recommendation?
The recommendation that I have is I do want to honor Paul's contributions to the traffic and transportation, and he's considered, he wants to be reconsidered for that. And then my second choice would also be Nicole Burgess as well. I do want to honor her contributions to the committee in the past and nominate her as well. So those are my two choices.
So Mandy, is that a nomination of those two or a motion for those two?
Exactly. Yeah, I nominate Nicole Burgess and Paul Grimes for the traffic.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Oh, Corla.
Yeah, Don's not here because we're not doing this right, but It doesn't matter.
I know, we're not.
And which way are we not doing this
But
right?
you don't do motions and seconds on elections. You just have,
Mm-mm.
you have candidates and you vote on them. But let me ask you a question. Is there anybody who is a member of the board who would like to join the transportation committee so that you have 4 board members and then you can have all 3 of the community members?
Again, that was suggested earlier, but the issue is that we have issues meeting quorum because some people want to participate in these committees and then they don't show up to the meeting. So that's the issue we want to avoid. So I'm willing to take on more committee members as long as there's a guarantee that they can consistently show up to the meetings.
I've been on the board for the last 3 years. Paul Grimes has done an extensive amount of work. He sits out at, and Brad can back me up on this, he sits out at intersections, does counts, does tests, he does all sorts of stuff, and Nicole has contributed a lot. But I also see Matt with a huge interest. So I don't know, I'd like to see a fair voting process than just a recommendation on who we should vote for. I'm with David Dick, actually. I agree. If one of the board members could please step up and join the committee so we could add all 3. I think having more than none, from what I've seen, we've struggled in the past having meetings because we're all, we can't get enough people there. So I think having more people is better than not having enough, especially community members. I would think that that's really important to have as many community members as you possibly legally can on these committees. So that's my 2 cents. I'd like to see all 3 be able to be up fair for votes, not just.
Okay. Brad, do you have a comment? Brad, you can go ahead.
Thank you. I agree with Margaret. If it came to it, maybe one of them doesn't vote. We had plenty of times where we'd have equal numbers of community members and board members that would be at a meeting, and just one of them would kind of bow out. But I think all 3 of the candidates have a lot of value and are assets to the community, and they're all really engaged. So Matt's a brilliant man, and Nicole, as we know, she knows everybody at the city and knows how everything works. And Paul, as Margaret characterized, goes down there and he walks and takes notes. And you've had experience with him. He's very, very thorough. So I think all of them should be allowed to be on there. And also Tony, we're going back and forth on this a little bit, and I've just forgotten, but this issue of quorums on subcommittees, because we've had issues with, a lot of people wouldn't show up, as Mandy had said, and so it was sort of like a non-meeting. Is there a requirement that subcommittees need quorums?
I have to get back to you on that. Off the top of my head, I think it's a good idea, but I'm not sure if it's a requirement. So let me check. Yeah.
All right, thank you.
All right, so David, you've looked at the bylaws. What's your recommendation? Should we just vote on 2 out of the 3, or?
No, I think I heard Margaret basically sort of nominate all 3, I think what we would do is we take a vote. The top 2 vote getters, everybody gets 2 votes, and the top 2 vote getters are elected.
I see Eva has a hand up. Maybe we're having a volunteer to Eva, do you have a comment?
Well, I'd really like to see all 3 continue. Currently, I'm the co-chair for the Environmental Committee, and I'm also a member of Parks and Rec. I don't want to bite off more than I can chew. Can I let go of my commitment to Parks and Rec and join traffic so we can get all community members on that committee?
Is that okay with you, Mandy? Because you're Parks and Rec.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I was looking at the chat. Say that again, Eva.
So I'm proposing that I leave Parks and Rec and join traffic so we can get all 3 on board.
Oh, I would definitely be open to that.
Okay.
So I guess that
Eva.
issue. So we'll add. Do we have to vote to have Eva added to the committee? Is that what we would?
I think that we should have I think we should make a motion to add Eva as a member to the traffic committee. Somebody want to make that motion?
Yeah, I'll make that
Go
motion
ahead.
Motion by Mandy, second.
to add Eva
Margaret.
to the Traffic and Transportation Committee.
And remove Parks and Rec.
Okay.
And remove Park and Recs, okay. And a second by Margaret. All right. All those in favor? I believe that we're going to get an 8-0 here.
You know, just on the issue of the quorum at the subcommittees, there is a bylaw that seems to imply that a quorum is required. But keep in mind, subcommittees don't actually take action that is binding on the board. So any action that a subcommittee takes is purely advisory. And so I think you could have a committee meeting without a quorum and take a vote, as long as the vote is reported back up to the board as being a vote taken at a point in time when there wasn't a quorum present.
Okay. All right. Now, as far as adding these public members, David, I think that I don't need a motion. I can just say there's been 3, Paul Grimes, Nicole Burgess, and Matt Chalice have been nominated, and have a vote to see if we want to add them to the traffic committee.
Correct.
Okay, let's vote.
Wait a minute. I didn't clear it yet. Are we clear on Eva? I can clear that. What's up here right now is voting for Eva on to traffic. And you got that count, Fred?
I thought it was 8. I thought it was 8.
I just want to be sure you have. I'm going to clear it now. Okay.
Okay.
Now we can vote on the 3 community members. Sorry.
And again, it looks like we have 8-0.
I'm counting 9.
Are you counting 9? Okay.
Yeah, I've been counting 9. I think that's what confused me a second ago, is because I've been saying 8. I was counting 9. 1, 2,
okay.
8, 9. Yeah, that would be unanimous because you're not voting.
Right. Perfect. All right.
I'm gonna clear.
Good job, Mandy. And Eva, thanks for stepping up. All right, how about long-range planning, Margaret? Do you got any public members you want to add?
I think I do. I believe one is Cameron Havlick. He's super involved. He was super involved last year. He presented last night, did an amazing presentation, and I really depend on him to help this committee on a few projects for the committee. So Cameron Havlick, do you accept?
Yes, I do.
Okay, and then I also had Angela Vetter. Are you still here? Angela's super involved too in the community and wants to get involved in some other projects to contribute to the board as well. Angela, do you accept?
Hi, Margaret, I'm here. Yes, I do.
And then I see Jerry's here. Jerry, you were on the committee last year. Do you have any interest in joining this year?
Sure.
Okay, so I've got Jerry, Angela, and Cameron as my nominated individuals. If anybody else wants to join, speak now. And I'm more than happy to have you.
How many board members do we have on there, Margaret?
We have 4.
Okay.
So we're okay with 3.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's a lot of work. We've got a lot of things, as you know, coming through the pipeline. So I'm going to delegate.
I will join if it's okay. Or
Tina would be number 4 nomination.
I'll back out so that Tina can be on.
Are you sure?
Yeah, sure. No, you need.
Been super involved in the committee as well.
I burned everybody out on affordable housing. I don't want to put you through more pain this year.
That's okay. You can always attend the meetings as well, correct?
Oh, I will.
Okay. Anybody else? That's it. I think that's it, Fred.
Okay, are we ready to vote on them then? The three members I have are Cameron Havlick, Angela Vetter, and Tina Compton. All those in favor of them, please vote yes.
We're getting good on this voting, guys. This is happening fast.
Do I need to recuse myself, Fred?
Cool.
You can abstain on this one if you want.
I'll abstain.
Or you can vote no if you want.
Don't get me in trouble now.
All right,
So that is 8, Fred. That's 8 with one.
that's 8. And Cameron, you be nicer to Mandy.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Okay, which other committees do we have that need to add any public members?
Project review.
Project review, Mark.
Yes, I have 2 community members that expressed interest. They've been on the board in the past and they've been on project review in the past. It would be Daryl Davis, who lives in Point Loma, and also his business is here, and also Joe Holishek, who's been on the board in the past, lives here and business is here. So I would nominate those 2 community members.
Who was the first one, Mark?
Gerald Davis.
Daryl Davis.
Gerald Davis.
Okay, David, okay. All right, any further discussion? All those in favor, please vote.
I see 9.
Perfect, there we go.
Thank you.
All right, do we have any other committees that need public members? Park and Recreation?
Yeah, we have the Parks and Recreation. If there's anyone who is wanting to join as a committee, community member, or as a board member, currently myself and Margaret are on the Parks and Rec subcommittee. Dawn, I believe, has expressed interest to be a member of that as well. So I would like to propose that he also be added as a member.
Don Severance?
Of that committee.
Mandy, I'd be happy to join that committee.
Is that Tina? Yes, I would love
Yes,
to have you, Tina.
It's Tina talking.
All right, thank you, Tina.
I wouldn't mind being on the committee as well, Mandy. Angela Vetter.
Okay, so right now we officially have myself and Margaret on as the board member. And so I need to add a third with Dawn being a board member before I can add a second community member.
I'll second Don.
You want to make it, Mandy, we make a
So I
motion
make
to
a
add Don?
motion to appoint Dawn to the Parks Subcommittee as a board member. And then
And
everyone
Brad,
can
you
vote from there.
second that?
Yeah.
Okay, let's vote on that. Let's do one step at a time. So all those in favor of adding Don as a board member to the Parks and Rec Committee?
A quick question, Fred. Has Don been spoken to about all this? Because he hasn't been around.
I'm sorry, you were kind of breaking up. I couldn't hear.
Oh, has Don been in communication with Don about this? Because he hasn't been at the last 2 meetings.
Yes, he has
Well-
been in communication.
Okay, so he's good to go. Perfect.
Okay. All right, I think I have, what do we have? 8 in favor and 1
7
against?
yes and 1 no. And I would like to abstain because I don't think Don's going to be participating with his current living situation. I'm not sure.
All right, 7, 1, and 1, but it passes.
Who stayed out of the vote? Who was a no?
David is no and I abstain.
All right, good. Thank you.
Hey, just real quick on Don. I spoke to him on Tuesday and he said he was going to be wanted to be part of the Parks and Rec.
All right, with Don being added, then we can add Tina Compton and Angela Vetter as public members. So why don't we go ahead and vote on that? All those in favor of adding Tina and Angela as public members to Parks? All right, what do you got? What do you have on that, Corla?
I think I've only got 8. Did somebody not vote? 1, 2, 3. 8.
I just saw one pop up. So.
I hadn't voted, so I did.
Oh, there it is. Then that's 9.
Okay.
Welcome to the subcommittee. I look forward to working with the both of you. We also need to fill,
Thank you.
I am the co-chair along with Eva Schmidt of the Environmental Ad Hoc Committee. And we have received 2 members, Matt Shalis and Nicole Burgess, who would also like to be community members of that subcommittee. And we have myself and we have Eva, and I believe Margaret is also a member of the environmental subcommittee. And so we would be eligible for 2 community members.
Okay. That sounds correct to me. So I think Matt and Nicole would be good people, and they would serve well in that position. So any discussion? All right, let's vote. How many are in favor of adding Matt and Nicole to the environmental ad hoc subcommittee? I think we got them all there, Corla.
So, yeah.
Perfect. All right, any other committees? Good job. We're stocked and ready to go, and everybody's doing a great job. So keep it up with the committees, and we'll keep moving forward. So now we're going to move. We do have a couple of CPC issues. So Corla, I'm going to turn it over to you for item number 4, and if you can describe what that is and what kind of guidance you think we need to give you on that first issue with the CPC.
Okay, yeah, there's a lot of stuff happening at the Community Planning Committee level. It was suggested at the July meeting that we request the city post a sign instead of a paper notice at development sites. The city says this is burdensome, but in the spirit of transparency, this seems like a good idea. Those notices weather and they often blow away. This will allow the community to know what is going on and who to contact for information. CPs would also like the website map easier to access and read. So the motion we made, we discussed this at long range planning, and we made a motion and to vote for the Peninsula Community Planning Board to approve the suggestion, no, wait a minute. Yes, to approve the suggestion from CPC to request the city post a sign instead of a paper notice at development sites. So that's the motion. This is pretty easy. So I need a second for that motion.
Second.
Margaret, second. Okay, is there any discussion? Go ahead, Margaret.
We discussed this pretty thoroughly at our long range planning meeting. And so across the board, the consensus was that we'd move forward to this board for final approvals to back us up.
Okay. Brad?
What kind of development sites are you talking about? You're talking about commercial, or you're talking about residential?
They didn't distinguish, just any development sites that, just so you know what's going on, post a sign instead of that little paper notice. That was
Well, I mean, well,
that Mark's showing one right there, those. And I'm a,
right. Now those normally would get taped to a door, right?
or something, or a fence or something.
They're ending up on the floor as litter.
Right. I'm just saying, well, I guess are you talking when you post a sign, are you talking about a stake driven in the ground?
I believe that's what they were talking about.
Well, Robert Jackson and I may have some specific experience regarding signs in places in yards. And it's kind of a pain in the ass, excuse me. Hopefully I didn't offend anyone, but there's just a physical issue. I mean, there's a reason that I can understand this burdensome issue because we have very hard soil. If you're in a commercial residence or location, you may not have dirt where a sign could be installed. And then if it's a residential area, we have ridiculously hard soil. I mean, we used to have, before we had a third party install our signs, I date myself, but years and years ago, we used to have these metal stake signs, and we used to carry little sledgehammers in our car and mushroom out the piece of metal. And I mean, I can understand that you would have to, there's a whole nother level of bureaucracy that have to be involved, instead of just potentially someone in an office printing something out and putting it on. Now you have to have somebody who is capable of either installing with a hammer or with a post hole digger. And I don't know if you've ever used a post hole digger on a large sign in our soil, but I can't do it anymore. But anyway, I'm just saying, in terms of a practical sense, I mean, I'm not against it, but I'm just thinking that in this time this city doesn't have any money anyway. And now there's just another thing that we have code enforcement issues where the code can't be enforced because they don't have people to go out. I mean, we've got a code that's, longer than, well, my short arms, but, and we don't have anybody going out. I mean, regarding signs, I mean, there's the code on sign regulations alone. I mean, you look at how real estate signs are supposed to be policed, they're just not done. And I mean, it used to be years and years ago, you could have a sign in front of a house and that was it. And now we have them littering every corner, and that's not allowed, but there's nobody there to enforce it. So anyway, my 2 cents.
I think that for that input, Brad, I think that's very thoughtful and insightful, and it certainly changes my opinion on this because I don't have that experience, and I had not looked at it from that standpoint. So that changes my opinion on this vote, and that's why we have a diverse board to discuss these issues.
So would this just be on a construction fence? Like, the construction area where they have a fence and then the signs are affixed to the fence? Or if they don't have a construction fence, then they would have to do it the old fashioned way and, dig them out and sink them.
Right.
I did try to get some information today on this, and it sounds like it was more geared towards the construction sites, not necessarily residential.
I can certainly see why the city says this is burdensome, listening to Brad.
Right. Well, I mean, okay, let's look at the construction site that's down there on Rosecrans, or where the Dolphin was. And they've got that hotel there. And so they likely would have had something there, but I guess you could mount it on the fence and a sign. But if it's a TI, a tenant improvement inside of a building, and it's, I don't know if that's a requirement for one of these signs, Mark would know, but I mean, would it help to have, instead of yellow paper, red paper to make it more visible, and the person has to use better tape or try to do a better job?
And how much are we seeing it in our community? I don't really see those documents. Is anyone else?
Yeah, I've never seen that. And, I'm right here near Formosa, and we purchased our house several years before. There was no signage or anything posted or anywhere that we could reference. I think having additional signage at the site would be appreciated, because it seems like here in the notes, it's the paper ones that they're using are flying off or degrading with the elements much sooner. So is it, Corla, can you explain, like, what is it, just like a cardboard, like a political sign? Is that what they're wanting to put out, or did they give you any specification?
The background info is exactly from my notes that I took there. That was all that was presented. I will say the reason you haven't seen any signs is that they only have to be posted within 300 feet of the development site. So you guys wouldn't see anything over there where you live. So that's why you've not seen them. But it wasn't anything more specific than this. It was just, I think, a general suggestion, and it's something I needed to get a feel for the board, what everybody feels before I went back and made a vote on. And Lucky had his hand up there. Lucky.
Yeah, the question I had, and we already kind of hit on that a little bit. It talks about the city, that they would post a sign with, it sounds like it's going to be something other than paper. So are they going to have like laminated things? You see, without having some idea of what their alternative they're talking about, I can't really get a feel for what the degree of difficulty is in trying to put this sign up. If you're talking about a hand painted on a board type of sign, that becomes problematical, I think, as far as the degree of difficulty. I don't know. I appreciate Brad's input, because I hadn't thought about the idea. And how many of these things are we talking about? How many run through this area in a month period of time?
Exactly.
I mean, we're talking about 10 developments or 50 developments, or?
I don't know. Eva has her hand up.
Yeah, I have two questions that maybe you can clarify. You briefly mentioned also postings on a website to be made more user-friendly. Can you maybe clarify that a little bit? And I guess the other question, is this an issue that was brought forth by the community, or how did this come about? I guess, who are we trying to gear our effort towards?
Yeah, I can't comment about the website because I don't really go on that website, but so I don't know how it's presented or how it looks. It was just a comment that wanted to bring up for discussion, and they said they were going to vote on it next week. I just right before this meeting got the agenda for CPC next week. I don't know what's on it, if it's even actually on it this month, but that was just it was just thrown out there, and I don't think they have as insightful of comments as Brad had. So, but a CPC, one of the CPC chairs, I can't remember which community it was, brought this up and requested it be discussed. So my thinking is I'll take Brad's comments back to CPC after we have a vote and bring those issues up so that other people can discuss that. And Mark has his hand up.
Okay, Mark, do you have a comment?
Yeah, I'm just catching up to what Corla is saying. So what I understand, Corla, is that in the regular CPC meeting coming up, they're looking for you to make a vote on this issue that came up last month, which is about this signage issue. So what I understand is that for the last 30 years, 40 years in San Diego, for any development permit that you get, which is any discretionary permit, process 2 to process 5, the city gives the applicant this yellow form, right? And they're required to put that yellow form in a place where you could see it from the street. So anybody that's walking by can go, oh, something's going to happen at that site, walks up to it and reads it and says, oh, okay, it's a notice for a coastal development permit, okay? So what happens is when these coastal development permits go on for months, sometimes years, this piece of paper gets weathered, gets wet, gets dry, gets peeled, gets ripped, okay? So you can't see it anymore and you can't read it. So then people come by and go, I don't understand what's going on, all right? The city does have a website, right? They have gotten farther than that. They have a website, which is the Open DSD, which you could look in your neighborhood or look at where that project was and get a full description of that project online. That was one of the things they have done in the last several years. But the notion about this piece of paper lasting much more than a couple months, posted, nailed, taped, however they do it to the job site, so it's, so you can see it from a public way. That's why it's yellow as well, bright yellow, so you can see it. So I guess the CPC is asking us to say, hey, do we want to get away from this, old school method where we have this piece of paper and go to maybe a more permanent type sign? But I don't understand if the city's going to pay for that and give it to all these applicants, because it's probably on the range of, thousands of these a year, lucky, when you talk about all the development projects that the city goes through. So it is an interesting, phenomena. I'm not sure if it's well worth the time and who's going to be responsible for actually placing the sign. And then what we've learned also is during the election period, removing the sign after the election, so that's just my 2 cents. If that helps everybody understand, I think what the CPC is looking for us for some guidance or recommendation, or, dislike of that policy that they're looking for.
It's going to be another owner responsibility to pay for and maybe be responsible for the sign.
So I guess we've talked about it for a while. I don't know if Eva, do you have another comment? But I'd like to see if we could give Corla some guidance and move on.
Yeah, I guess just a brief comment. My 2 cents on this are, I think if the information can be reliably found elsewhere, like a website that is easily navigable for most people, I don't know if it's worth the expense and the effort of posting something more permanent that, you know, where is the enforcement then if this isn't posted? It seems just a lot of effort and a lot of potential expense for potentially not a lot of benefit if the information is accessible online and can easily be viewed there.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. So I'm going to restate the motion, and it either dies or we vote it down. I think I don't want to be trying to influence people. I think the motion would be more effective if it were voted down. David, I don't know. I mean, but anyway, I will restate the motion to support a suggestion from CPC to request the city to post a sign instead of a paper notice at development sites. And then if there's a second, we'll vote. And if there's no second, the motion will die.
Was there a second on your first motion?
I don't remember.
I don't think there ever was.
Was there? Okay.
Okay, so is there a second on the current motion? I don't see a second.
Then that tells me how to vote. If we can't even get a motion passed, that'll tell me how to respond, and I'll take the comments back to CPC when this comes up.
Okay. All right. Well, and I appreciate the discussion on it. That was interesting. I bet that's more than the CPC's actually thought about it, but that's my guess. All right. How about the next item, number 5? What's the issue there with CPC, Corla?
Okay. Now the next one is, Tony alluded to a bunch of this stuff early on when he was commenting, but the city is updating the municipal code to come into compliance with state laws that went into effect in January of this year. So there's a lot of stuff that's going on, which I will address in the CPC report, but there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we don't have any say about because it's already state law and the city has to come into compliance with that. So it's, you know, moot, no discussion. However, during this process and this discussion, this presentation by the city about the state mandates, somebody thoughtfully asked the question, and also Jim Hare last month posed the question, does the city's position align with the state's position? And if someone hadn't specifically asked that position, we would not have known that the city is trying to push through some mandates along with the state mandates. So we need 108,000 regional housing units from 2021 to 2029. Although we cannot do anything about the state mandates, there are 2 city issues on the table, parking regulations and small lot development. And I sent everybody that background information that I got an email from Laura Black, and there's a long list of city proposals about not requiring parking for ADUs. And, you know, I'm pretty much the parking police around here, and their list of things pretty much makes me want to agree with the statement. There's 2 statements here that I'll read. If these, you know, half mile of a TPA, a designated historic residence, if parking permits, you know, there's certain things that you can't require parking. But if those don't apply, then state law allows the city to require parking that does not exceed 1 space per ADU per bedroom, whichever is less. Now, I think that formula has gone to 0.5 now, but I'm not positive. But anyway, due to the highly limited circumstances in which the city is allowed to require parking, The city is proposing to simply not require parking for ADUs. So that's the discussion, and that's the vote that I know that this is going to be on the agenda. And so who has the insight here?
Mark.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just going to say I'm very sensitive to. There's lots of areas where it doesn't seem like there's not enough parking, and that just adversely impacts the people in the community. But that's just my sense. I don't know a vote here. So, Mark, do you have a comment or thoughts on this? You're muted, Mark. There we go.
When it comes to the ADU parking, and let's just specifically talk about Peninsula and Point Loma area, we have two transit zones, two transit corridors, one along Rosecrans and one along Point Loma Avenue. And those tend to be these transit corridors that we've now seen for probably 3 or 4 years that we knew the city was trying to densify. And part of that densification was allowing this parking for smaller companion units, and this is how we've described it up till this point, be allowed without parking, saying, hey, if somebody wants to rent out this companion unit, they want to put a student in there, the student can take a bus, can take a, ride their little scooter around and do everything they need to in these transit corridors, okay? What worries me is that if you start allowing no parking for any additional dwelling units that we're going to add to our properties, which we heard from Tony today, could be 3 different types of structures on one piece of property on a single family residence and not require the parking, would open the floodgates to anybody that said, hey, I want to maximize my property and make it a multi-family almost, since you've got 3 different potential units on one property. That scares me. I wasn't so apprehensive about the city saying, let's put it in the transit corridors, but by saying that any ADU that when you want to add, you're not required the parking. We're going to have the same problem when it comes to the bigger multi-family projects in our community. These are the 16, the 20, the 50 plex condominiums where they're saying, hey, you can provide parking, but you don't have to associate it with a unit, meaning it's unbundled. So you can buy you can rent a unit, but not have to pay for a parking space. So the developers will put fewer parking spaces in there. That may roll into that as well, saying, once you do these things, then there's no parking whatsoever. So it does scare me a little bit outside of that transit corridor if it's anywhere throughout Point Loma, anywhere throughout our single family residential neighborhood.
Yeah, one of the concerns expressed at the CPC was that as a result of all these ADUs and junior units and tiny homes being able to be built on one single family lot, was that people were going to park in the lawns in front. And this could lead to ghettoizing single family neighborhoods. So, yeah.
Margaret, go ahead.
As I attend a lot of these surrounding neighborhood meetings, I'm finding more and more parking's getting eliminated, especially street parking for more bike lanes. And I'll get into it a little bit more when I provide you my midway report. There's a huge plan coming through the pipe works to remove more street parking in that area on Hancock Street. So I would protect any parking that we have currently, regardless what type of parking it is, because it's going to get really bad on the peninsula real quick, real soon. So just please keep that in mind.
Cameron, did you want to comment?
I do. I just wanted to build on Mark's comment that the reality situation is our community in particular is an aging community, and most people are getting around by cars. Right now, the city does not possess the public transportation options necessary for people in our community to move to and from and get to where they have to go. So until we either invest in the infrastructure that allows public transit to be more of an option for most community members, I think getting rid of any parking regulations anywhere around here would be irresponsible on the board or city's part. It's just not part of the city's culture right now. Thank you.
Okay,
And I'll
any
make a
other
comment
comments?
about that TPA. I don't know if you guys have looked at it, but SB 743 has defined the transit priority areas, and there's a map on that, and they made little yellow circles around all the TPA areas, the half miles, and it pretty much looks to me like it's about the whole damn city. But that's a sarcasm. But I tend to be in agreement about parking, but this is what was presented at CPC. And you know, they aren't required parking within a half mile of the transit, of the public transit, and that's not only existing, but that's planned within the next 50 years. So existing or planned transit will be exempt from parking within that half mile radius. So that's another thing that kind of terrifies me as well. And I'll let someone else speak.
All right, so Corla, I think there's a sense of the board that there's some real concerns about making sure that we have enough parking. So do you need a vote on that, or do you feel comfortable?
Well, I need to propose a motion. We didn't quite, we just didn't know how to vote at long range planning. We discussed it. It's the place to start the conversation. So I need to phrase a motion. Margaret, will you help me write this down?
Yeah, no problem.
Girl.
I got you.
So I would like to propose a motion that the Peninsula Community Planning Board does not support removing any type of parking regulations that are required for any type of accessory dwelling unit. Any type of accessory dwelling unit. And should I say single family residence, or that, no, forget that. That's not mandated by other state regulations. I want to be sure that I say that so that if it's mandated by the state, obviously we can't object to it at this point. So
repeat one more time.
Oh boy, I was afraid you're going to say that. The Peninsula Community Planning Board does not support changing any ADU parking regulations except as otherwise mandated by the state. How's that sound? Would anybody like to help me with that motion at all, Mark?
No, Corla, what you're saying is that we do not support anything outside of 500 square feet ADU, right? Is that one's by the state actually allowed not to have a parking space, right?
Actually, I think I think that, let me interrupt a minute, Mark. I think that 500 is going to change to 800 because it doesn't right now, and this is coming up too, anybody can put an 800 square foot ADU on their property now, regardless of FAR.
So you can go up to 1,200, technically.
Well, they just
well, and that's what we're saying though. So if you came to us with a 1,200 square foot ADU, we would count your bedrooms and then assign parking related to it, even if you were in a transit priority area. But if you came to us with a 500 square foot ADU, we would say it's small enough where you're not required a parking space in the transit corridor. So we are enforcing the current law, which is the 500 square feet, and anything above that, they come to us with those types of products, we will say, where's your parking? And I think that's what I hear we're saying is part of what you're proposing.
That's what I would agree with that. That's what I get the sense that this board wants to continue that. I mean, you guys, we no longer have single family zones. So I believe we need to protect our parking as much as we can. And I think everyone else was saying that as well.
So I think Mark presents a good point to, are you going to put the footage in your motion? The 1,200 foot?
Now, the 800 square foot that Corla's talking about is a new law that's just come down from the state that says that typically our FAR would cap, which our Florida area ratio would cap how big we could build on a single lot, right? The new state law says, hey, if you've got 100% of your lot built out with your FAR, we'll let you build 800 more square feet of area for an ADU. So now we can go over on our floor ratio area that we've always had. It was a cap for what we could build in our neighborhood.
Right, that's exactly right.
And it won't be in this. It won't be in this code update. It will be in the 21 code update, which they haven't even started yet. But it's already a law.
Yeah.
Mark, I had a question on how FARs work, and I just never understood that if you build a second story over a garage, does that square footage start considered to be the same as if you would have built an additional unit adjacent to the garage?
Yeah, they would both, lucky, you would add up the garage plus the residence above, that would be your FAR. If they were distinguished, two separated, or even actually touching each other, you'd add up the two square footages and that would be the FAR.
So it doesn't have any direct relationship to how much open dirt you've got left on your lot.
No, that's called coverage, which is lot coverage.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Some areas
Coverage.
that's limited on how much you can build on coverage.
Yeah, I forgot that.
So Margaret, to your question, I don't think we need to put any square footage in because that's going to change. I think they just want to get a sense of feeling that we don't support removing all ADU parking regulations unless it's mandated by the state. I think our board wants to fight for as much parking as we're going to be able to get.
I think that fairly summarizes our position. So
I'll
can we have
second
a
that
vote?
motion.
Margaret is seconding that motion. Why don't we go ahead and vote? All those in favor of that vote, that motion, please vote. Or if you're against it, you can vote the other way.
Brad wants to ride his bike.
All right. So
4, 5, 6,
Climate change.
7.
We got to look forward.
Yes, I think David had a commitment. He put in the chat, and then 1 no.
7-1,
Do you have to give reason for no or only abstentions?
just for abstentions.
Okay.
Oh, damn.
Brad voted contrary. All right. Motion passes.
Yes. Okay.
There we go. All right, we've taken care of our action items, and we're gonna keep moving, and we'll get through this. The next thing is just an informational item, which I think is going to be quick.
No, I've got one more. We separated that into small lot development.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, and I don't know a lot about it, but my sense is that let me look at my notes. I think that the city wants to build on everything. Traditionally, we've not liked lot splits and, different things in the peninsula. We like to, keep things going that way. But I think because of this extreme housing shortage and the need that I think the city is going to want to ask out of this, they want to provide development incentives for small lots, and it says under a ½ acre. And then I had a question about that, and that doesn't mean it's going to be a ½ acre because we don't have that kind of acreage here in Point Loma. I think it means that's just their cap. It could mean a 1,000 square foot lot or anything. They want to be able to put something on any piece of land that they can, and they want to give development incentives for that. And I sent that information. There's something about historical resources and blah, 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 blah. And I'm sorry, I don't know more about it, but that's going to be discussed. How would this board and our members feel about developing every small parcel of land?
Okay, Margaret, I'm going to let people respond, but I'm just going to say my editorial opinion, which is I don't like developing every little piece of land. But Lucky, go ahead, please.
Yeah, is there any wording in what they're asking for that delineates what is the smallest sized lot?
No, the only thing.
Okay, then that's a non-starter for me. If they won't, no, I wouldn't. Historically, I've always found that when you start to lot split, you devalue the value in a community over time anyway. So I object to lot splitting in general purpose, but that's it.
Isn't this existing lots, Corla?
They didn't, it doesn't say anything about that. In the stuff I sent out, there's a proposed San Diego Municipal Code, and they list the number, pages 17 to 18, blah, blah, blah. So I can't go that deep.
I mean, to split a lot, you have to have specific frontage and.
Well, they weren't talking about lot splits. They didn't mention anything about lot split. They were just talking about
existing. I'm just wondering how many existing lots are left around here.
Yeah, well, yeah. I mean, we're a little different here than other places in the city. So obviously, I don't know.
Well, this community knows exactly how many small lots they have in the community. We have gone through and listed them all out as part of an attempt to tell the city or ask the city if they would enforce their law, which says that if we have these small lots, that they need to consolidate them into larger lots, so we get away from the 25-foot by 100-foot lot that we still have. Maybe, and we only have probably maybe a dozen at the most of these small lots left in our community. Now, what we don't want to have happen is somebody to come back and use the rules that the city is pushing on us to take regular sized lots and say, hey, look, I've got a normal 5,000 square foot lot. Hey, I can maybe cut it in half now with this new small lot subdivision and make two, 25 by 100 square foot lots side by side, in which that would be a bad thing for the community and a bad thing for the fiber of our neighborhood. So,
Isn't that, well, yeah, go ahead.
I don't know if that's the intent, Brad, but I think because we do have a small lot development in the municipal code, there is a chapter in there, and they must be fine tuning it to allow more development on these smaller lots.
Robert, go ahead.
Yeah. What about an example like Alcott Street in Poinsettia, where that subdivision, the Bridges Estate, dictates minimum lot square footages? Would a circumstance like that be overridden, or?
I have no idea. I'm sorry, I don't know. None of that was discussed, and then she sent out the background information I sent to you guys, so I'm sorry.
Yeah, I sold a house over there, and they had minimum lot square footages that they had to adhere from Elliott Street down to Alcott. And I found that interesting. It wasn't just a standard 5,000 square feet minimum, that's normal.
Not our area, but look at OB. They're how many 25 by 100 or 25 by 140 are through OB? I mean, half of it. I just don't know how many there are in our community that are still left. I mean, we've got so much that are like my neighborhood. It's all 50 by 140. It's all 7,000. And
I think the biggest property we probably have is Owens and Rosecrans, the Ledford Estate. That's 3.5 acres.
Our discussion will be more towards San Diego as a whole, not necessarily amongst our community. Correct, Corla?
Well, that's where I was just about to say, Margaret. I think
it's San Diego, not just our community.
Well, we obviously want to focus on our community and how we feel and how this is going to affect us, because, that's number one in my opinion, and then we go for the whole city. But I get the sense here that this board doesn't like that, which is what I thought. And I'm sorry, my phone is ringing. I think we're at a point that I could make a motion that the Peninsula Community Planning Board is not in favor of changing or removing small lot regulations at this time. Would that be a fair motion?
I think that's a fair motion, and just for the record, I don't like them building out every little square corner in other communities either. So is there a second for that motion?
That was my point, is San Diego as a whole.
Okay. All right, why don't we vote on that? Let's vote on the motion. I'll vote either for or against that motion.
Is there, I don't see an abstain on here.
You'll just tell us abstain.
All right.
Brad, live on a small lot?
I just don't, I guess I don't really quite understand. I just need more information. I guess that's typically what people say when they're abstaining from a vote. I just think that, I mean, if we have precedent for 25 by 100s in throughout at least our adjacent community, and we are short of housing, I don't understand why a small lot like that couldn't be developed. I mean, if it's existing.
Well, is anybody here?
How do you incorporate these tiny lots into somebody else's lot? Are they required to, I mean, do they have, how does the ownership work? I guess
All right, Robert,
I'll tell you, this
we
stuff's
need
coming
you to
down
vote.
hard. This stuff's coming down hard and fast, and like there's so much that's already into law we don't even know about, you know. So anyway, I understand Brad completely.
All right, I got a vote of 6-0 with one abstention, which is Brad.
And do we? Eva had to step out. Is that enough for a quorum?
Yeah.
That's 7 out of
Oh, it's
13.
7. Yeah, okay, good. All right. Yeah, she just asked that question. So that would be, yes, I could take that back and vote that we just have the discussion that we had, right?
Yep. All right, so let's move to the informational items. The first one hopefully won't take too long, but I thought it was important to put it on the agenda, and I don't know if Mark can just sort of confirm, but Kellogg Beach project has been a big issue in the community for a long time. And there's been a lot of people on the board that have been concerned about it, and that project has been withdrawn to my knowledge. Is that correct, Mark?
Yeah, what it was called Bayfront Townhomes, and this was a process for coastal development permit to construct 9 condominium units right on Kellogg Beach. The applicant had a 10-year window to pull this coastal development permit. So he had in 2006 or 2016 they submitted it. So we reviewed it maybe once or twice. Had a lot of community input, a lot of community pushback, and what we found out while the board was dark on May 6th is that we got a notice from the city saying the project had been withdrawn. I went back and looked again today to see if that was true on the city's website and to see if there's anything else that has been submitted on that property, and I see nothing so far. But there is talk about perhaps that the owner may pursue a different course for the property and may come back to something that's more in line with what could be built there without pushing the limit. So
that's the rumor.
Yeah, officially the project has been withdrawn. The 9 condominium units that was gonna be in the water in a couple years.
Okay, Robert, it sounds like you know more
But
than
but
others.
hold on, there was one good thing that did come out of all of this, and that was the simple fact that because of the community making as much noise that they did, we found out through the process that the responsibility for the sand on Kellogg Beach was the port, and now the port has come back and acknowledged that and been replenishing that beach with sand. So
Good
did come out of the project.
Yes.
About time. It's been many years since they put sand down there.
Absolutely.
So Robert, what's your rumor that you're going to share with us?
Well, I believe that they're maybe talking about just putting in 3 townhouses, rooftop deck.
In the water still?
No, I don't know. It'd be set back. Apparently, they try to mitigate the water. I mean, the argument was the access, and it looked like they were trying to kind of privatize that beach and then put these seawalls out. And
Right.
The neighboring property kind of did the same thing, and I think that kind of set a precedence, but nobody really knew the history on that. You have the erosion issue, and then underground parking. I mean, for 13 cars, I mean, obviously that was going to be a big ask, but I know the community has a very powerful land use attorney that's been helping them with a lot of concerted effort down there and a lot of pushback because it was not, obviously there's a lot of concern about the well-being of public access and the future of Kellogg Beach with that big of a development.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
All right, well, thank you. I just thought it was important to update that, and because a lot of us like Kellogg Beach. I've recently been there with my grandson, so thanks for the update. If you hear things that, let us know as we move along. So we are going to get more water, I think, in Point Loma. So there is a new Alvarado pipeline extension project, and Megan Drumming and the crew from the Public Works Department wanted to give us a presentation to let us know what's going on in the community. So Megan, I'll turn it over to you and your team if you want to update us on that.
Thank you. This This is Sheila. I'm a senior civil engineer with the city's Public Works Department. Thank you for allowing our project team to attend your meeting so that we may provide some information about the upcoming construction of the Alvarado Second Pipeline Extension Project. I am online with Jericho Gallardo, the city's project manager. He and I will provide the project information. Also online are Steve Lindsay, senior construction engineer in the city's field engineering division. His team will oversee the construction. Sarah King, she is the consultant from Kennedy Jenks who is overseeing the design. And Megan Drummy, the outreach consultant from Katz and Associates. She is now working on initial coordination with stakeholders and will continue through construction. All of us will be available for your questions. Next slide. Background and need. This project is for the city's Public Utilities Department, which provides reliable water service to 1.4 million residents. This requires an extensive infrastructure system. The scope for this project both expands the system and reduces aging portions. Approximately 10 miles of water main will be constructed, primarily to install a new transmission main, which completes the transmission network through Mission Valley and allows for the efficient delivery of water treated at the Alvarado treatment plant to the coastal communities. Alignment, the existing distribution main will be replaced in some areas as required due to age and condition. Next slide. Project details. Here is some information about the overall scope. The new transmission main begins at Friars Road and the Interstate 805, where it connects to the existing Alvarado Second and Kearney Mesa pipelines and runs westward to SeaWorld Drive at West Mission Bay Drive, where it connects to the recently constructed Pacific Beach pipeline. This transmission main will also connect to the Morena pipeline at Friars Road and Napa Street. The replacement of the existing distribution main is proposed along SeaWorld Drive between West Mission Bay Drive and the Interstate 5, Friars Road between Napa Street and Fashion Valley Road, and then turning south on Fashion Valley Road to Riverwalk Drive, and again on Friars Road between Frazee Road and east of Mission Center Drive. Next slide. Project area. This slide shows the overall area of work. I will describe the alignment from east to west. Along Friars Road, beginning at the Interstate 805, east to Frazee Road, south along Frazee Road to Hazard Center Drive, east to the east side of State Route 163, where the new pipe will be tunneled under the freeway. Continuing east along the south side of Fashion Valley Mall in Riverwalk Drive, then turning north on Fashion Valley Road, then west back onto Friars Road to SeaWorld Drive. Then continuing on SeaWorld Drive in both directions to the approach of the Interstate 5 and to West Mission Bay Drive. Next slide. Next slide. What you can expect. As the alignment for this project is on such heavily traveled city streets, the project team has given the traffic control plan much consideration. At this time, all construction is proposed as night work. Also, lane closures and the shifting of traffic during construction is anticipated as opposed to detours. Additionally, the traffic control plan will address impacts to sidewalks and bike lanes, and access will be maintained for homes and businesses. I would like to note that the project alignment does pass through residential areas on Friars Road and Hazard Center Drive. Our team is aware of the possibility This work may need to be changed to day work. We plan to monitor the work in this area very closely for this concern. Next slide. Project benefits. This project will expand the transmission network and allow for efficient distribution of water to the coastal communities. It will also replace some of the aging portions, and the scope for the upgrade of we'll discuss the areas of work in more detail.
Good evening. First off, good evening to the Peninsula Community Planning Board, and thank you to Sheila for starting this presentation off. My name is Jericho Gallardo from the City of San Diego Public Works Department. I am the City Design Project Manager for Alvarado Second Pipeline Extension, and I'll be continuing the rest of this presentation. On the next few slides, I'll be going over the scope of work for Alvarado Second Pipeline. Seawell Drive from West Mission Bay Drive to Interstate 5. We are replacing a 12-inch distribution main and constructing a new 24-inch transmission main. This pipeline is connecting to the newly constructed Pacific Beach Pipeline along West Mission Bay Drive. This pipeline will be on the south side of Seawell Drive. There will be one lane closure, yet maintaining two-way traffic. We are also coordinating this work with SeaWorld and Caltrans. There will be signage for the beach communities letting you know that this project is in the area. Next slide, please. Friars Road from Seawell Drive to Napa Street. We are installing a new 24-inch transmission main. Pipeline will be on the south side of Friars Road. Two-way traffic will be maintained and bike lanes will be detoured. Access to homes and businesses will be maintained, and we will continue coordination with MTS and Caltrans. Next slide, please. Friars Road from Napa Street to Fashion Valley Road. We will continue the installation of a new 48-inch transmission main and replacing a 16-inch distribution main. Again, pipeline will be on the south side of Friars Road. Two-way traffic will be maintained and bike lanes will be detoured. Access to homes and businesses will be maintained. Fashion Valley Road, Riverwalk Drive, and Hazard Center Drive and Crazy Road. Again, we are installing a new 48-inch transmission main and replacing a 16-inch distribution main. Two-way traffic will be maintained. There will be coordination efforts with Fashion Valley Mall and Hazard Center. Access to MTS Trolley Station will be maintained. Alternate access routes will be utilized in order to install the pipeline. Next slide, please. Friars Road from Frazee Road to Interstate 805. Again, we will be installing a new 48-inch transmission main and replacing a 16-inch distribution main. Replacing a 16-inch distribution main from Frazee Road to east of Mission Center Road. For this portion of work, the pipeline will be on the north side of Friars Road. One-way eastbound traffic will be maintained in this area. On and off ramps will be closed for westbound traffic. Access will be maintained for business and Civita community. Next slide, please. Project and community coordination. The Alvarado Second Pipeline Extension Project currently has Katz and Associates to help with the outreach efforts for this project. We have been reaching out to the other community planning groups that will be impacted by this project. We are committed to keeping the community informed during the design and construction phase. Communication will be through different media outlets such as mailouts, webpage updates, email blasts to the community chairs for distribution, as well as in-person meetings if available. We are also in close communication with other city and agency teams for scheduling and streamlining the construction work. Next slide, please. Project status. Design is currently underway. Final design to be completed in the fall of 2020. Contractor selection and construction start estimated to begin in mid-2021 with an estimated construction completion in 2024. Next slide, please. For any questions regarding this project, please use the email address you see here, alvarado2nd@sandiego.gov. You can also call the number listed or visit our project webpage. So just to give you a recap of our team, we have Sheila Bowes, Senior Engineer, myself, Jericho Gallardo, Design Project Manager, Steve Lindsay, the Senior Engineer Construction Supervisor, Sarah King, design engineer from Kennedy Jenks Consultants, and Megan Drummy from Katz and Associates. This concludes our presentation. I would like to open up the floor to any questions that you may have for me or for anyone else on our project team.
All right. Well, I'll start by just saying thank you. I know that I got to serve on the IROC committee with the Public Works Department, and you know, you guys are underappreciated for bringing reliable water service to everybody across the city. So thank you. So I don't, I appreciate you coming. So I don't know, are there any questions by any board members? Brad?
My mute's way over there. So do we kind of avoid Friars Road for 3 years once this starts? Is that kind of the gist of it? If those of us, because we do use that as an alternate, of course, to 8, and looks like getting out towards, let's say, Lowe's or Costco or IKEA or something like that, we would typically go Friars Road. But coming back, it looks as though that's going to be a little bit of an issue. And I'm just a question, curious.
Yeah, Brad, I mentioned, I know there was a lot of information in those
Yeah,
slides.
sorry, slow.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'm happy to revisit this point. It's a very important one. All of the construction operations at this point in time are scheduled as night work. And so we are putting that into the bid specification as we go out for construction, anticipating that is the preferred time in an effort to minimize the impacts. Obviously, during the construction operations, there will be impacts driving over trench plates, et cetera. Also for the Peninsula community, we are aware it's not just Friars, it's SeaWorld Drive, which provides access to the Interstate 5. The same conditions for night work will hold there. And I also was trying to mention that we're trying very hard with the traffic control plan to avoid detouring you. So as you're traveling, you may have shifting, but you should be able to take your intended path of travel without being detoured on a longer route.
Okay, this is even a worse question. So these are concrete pipes with a sort of like a rubberized or elastomeric connection at the joints. I'm just curious. I just saw the pictures and I'm like, what is that?
At the joint of the pipe, this
Yeah,
is going to be steel pipe. Well, I'm not sure
welded.
exactly. Maybe we can go back in the presentation and take a look. But for
No big deal.
this transmission main will be, it's steel pipe, and all of the joints will be welded.
Oh, okay. Thanks. I was just curious. I
May have
couldn't
been
really
a
tell.
generic construction photograph that was included.
Oh yeah,
not
that's the one. So I
necessarily-
was looking at that and I was like, what is that? So, okay. Welded steel pipe. Excellent. Thank you.
Yeah.
Never knew.
Robert, do you have a question?
Yeah, so what's the timeline with this, with the 4,300 units that are supposed to be developed at Riverwalk in conjunction with this project?
So we have been approached, that is a private development, and we are a public project. So we are sharing some of the same roads of significance, Fashion Valley Road between Riverwalk and Friars Road, as well as that development will be impacting Friars from Fashion Valley Road, I believe, all the way, I'm not exactly sure, to be honest, how far east it goes, Calusa. I think that they're conditioned for some surface improvements in that area. So at this point in time, we have met with that Riverwalk development team, and we have committed to include their subsurface improvements as a bid alternate within the CIP project. When we put this out, we will include a bid alternate to include all of their connections to the water main. Of course, the city CIP, the capital improvement project, cannot fund it. That's up to that Riverwalk developer to fund, but we are coordinating to the extent that we can provide that as a been up, that developer hasn't fund that done at one point in time in an effort to minimize, you know, ripping up the road again in a few months or years.
Okay.
Is
Brian?
that
Yeah.
addressing or no, not so much?
Yeah, I was just kind of curious about the impact of, you know, the roadway with the added congestions with both going on at the same time, and if there was a plan to try to mitigate, you know, the impact to the public.
Are there any other questions?
As far as, I was just going to say, yeah, there may be an opportunity to further coordinate the above ground improvements within the alignment that we share, the Friars Road and Fashion Valley Road. At this point in time, they haven't been agreed to. There have been some meetings between the development, which is kind of over that Riverwalk project, and the city's engineering department, which is overseeing the CIP.
Perfect. Thank you. I'll let you move on.
All right. I don't. Are there any other questions? I don't see any other hands. So I just again thank you for the presentation, and we appreciate you guys fixing our water sources so we have reliable water. And Megan, we like you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Go. So
Thank
our
you.
team will be signing off. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your patience.
Bye, Megan.
Bye.
All right, we get to we're getting towards the end, but we're going to have some reports from our neighbors and our government representatives. So Tracy, you've been loyal person through here. You want to lead us off with an Ocean Beach update?
Yeah, thanks. I'm just going to report a couple of things that, you know, we've talked about in the last meeting. One of them was the Complete Communities Parks Everywhere. We've been looking at the Ocean Beach parks individually and in little chunks. And at the last planning board meeting, we approved a design concept to alter the Spray Street Dog Beach Park. I don't know if I've mentioned this to you or not, but what we want to do is we want to keep a lot of the grass, but we're going to, like, if you look at it in three parts, and if you look at that park in three parts, there's the part in front of the ebb tide, there's the part the grass that you pass when you come into the parking lot, and then when you exit the parking lot, there's a whole other section of grass that's kind of an L shape. And what we all, you know, we're thinking is it would be really great if the entrance to the park started a circuit track. So we would remove like a third of the grass, like when you enter into the park, and put an actual fitness circuit track in there with 6 or more actual adult kind of activities that people could do. And then what that would do is that would remove a third of the grass, and we could put like a pervious surface or a poured rubber surface or something. So that would eliminate having to water a third of the grass as well. And then at the end of the park, our idea was to make that more of a designated picnic area where we would put more picnic tables, and the trash cans would go there, and we'd have an area, like a smaller area for people to still play, but there would be way more picnic tables in that area. And we kind of felt like that was a good area to have, that designated picnic area, because number one, it's near the restrooms. And number two, it actually has the best view of the beach. So, and then we would leave the ebb tide, the grass in front of the ebb tide, completely alone for larger group activities or games or whatever. So it was a really, it was kind of a minor update. We also discussed how to keep the really big RVs from parking on the grass. We've discussed putting signage at the beginning and the end of the park, because people are always asking, where's the bathroom? Where's Dog Beach? You know, and little things like that. So with the Complete Communities Park Everywhere, they give you points for each type of amenity, and they're paying precedent to parks over 12 points, I think it was. So we were trying to get more points for that park and also make it more community focused and more friendly. We discussed adding like another tot lot, but the discussion was that there are already a couple of parks. There's actually 3 tot lots in Ocean Beach. So we felt like we didn't really need another children's playground there, and it would be much nicer to have an adult playground there instead. The other thing that Corla actually mentioned was the MOU, and she is correct. We decided that we didn't want to make any movement on it or comment on anything, even though we've had a number of STVR meetings. We have some ideas, but we all felt like because we don't know who our electeds are going to be in 3 months, you know, we really couldn't, you know, the whole landscape could change, right? We could have a new city attorney, we could have, you know, we're gonna have a new mayor, you know, and we just really didn't know how people were going to, where they were gonna stand on that. So we all kind of reluctantly decided to hold off on that vote and hold off on our opinions until we could get further down the road. And I think those were the two main things that we discussed at our last meeting. Anybody have any questions?
Any questions? All right, Tracy, we appreciate that update and appreciate you keeping us informed on Ocean Beach.
Thanks. Sure.
Josh, saw you yesterday at the ANAC, but thanks for staying in. What's going on with
Of course,
District
no
2?
problem. Good evening, everyone. Josh Coyne with Councilmember Campbell's office. City Council is currently in legislative recess, so no big policy updates, but we do have our next meeting scheduled for September 8th. That will be the next time the City Council will convene. You may have seen if you drive along Rosecrans between Canyon and North Harbor, the beautification project that's currently underway on the medians, that is just about complete. The contractor, actually the resident engineer, was just out today to sign off on final approvals. So we believe that is actually almost done. So that is good news, and I think it looks awesome. It was a really big improvement. And hopefully we'll keep the weeds down from growing like they're growing ridiculously on Nimitz right now. So that will be a big win for us. Our big policy priority right now is Midway. That is going to be our big conversation that we're talking about. Just another update, the RFPs that were out are currently under review by the city committee and will be turned over to the mayor for final kind of selection and choosing one. We believe that we'll have some sort of update in the next week or so on where that's moving. So we don't have an exact timeline from them, but as soon as I do, I'd be happy to forward it out to the community. Once again, the process after that, the mayor will meet, we'll select something, we'll select a proposal, and then the city will begin those lease negotiations, and the public will have input, and of course will require council approval. The last just date I want to put on your calendar, if it doesn't come up, is August 9th at 5 p.m. The council member will be attending a Point Loma Association community conversation, which will be about the future development on the peninsula. I'm happy to include the link if someone doesn't already have it, so folks can register to attend that meeting on behalf of the Point Loma Association.
You said August 9th, you mean September 9th?
I meant September 9th. Thanks, I haven't had dinner yet.
If you send me the link, I'll send it to everybody on the board, and then that
I
way
will.
I'll
I'll send out the update so you'll have it in writing. Happy to take any questions if folks have them.
Any questions for Josh? Robert, then Corla.
Josh, I mean, is the community conversation going to be at the Portuguese Hall in a big group gathering, I assume, or is it going to be Zoom?
They're doing it on WebEx, so a form of Zoom. It'll be a public, digital meeting.
Right. The only thing I wanted to know, kind of separate, if there's any way that your office could assist in the post office on Cannon Street.
Mm-hmm.
Constantly get people that park in front of those boxes and they just walk in because they don't want to, they can't find parking or they don't want to be bothered.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any way to get some patrols out there, some meter maids between 3 and 5 to help enforce that?
Sure. Yeah, the city is Yeah, and they're white spaces, right? They're 3-minute like loading zones, right? For the
Well, right in front of the mailboxes, it's just, you're supposed to go out and put your mail through, then
drop
take
off.
off. But people
Okay.
park and they walk in. Post office won't do anything about it, but it's becoming more and more of a problem since traffic is continuing again.
Sure, we can look into that for you.
Okay.
Corley, did you have a question? Corley, do you have a question, Corley? All right, well, Tracy.
I do. I was gonna let, Tracy's been waving her hand. Let her go first. I was muted, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was waving my hand because we just got 2 home runs. But anyways,
Tracy, Tracy, go ahead.
I do have a question for Josh. What is your impression on where the street vendor ordinance is right now?
Our understanding is that it is kind of in political purgatory, and it left a committee and is now in the hands of conversation between the mayor's office and the council president on whether or not they will docket it and for full council approval. I do not know if that will happen or when it will happen. We have not heard. To be honest with you, I don't know if that will. I don't know when that will happen. So based on the conversations that we've heard, you're still please do continue to advocate that the council president dockets it. But I just don't know if that's. I don't know what the reality is on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of different things about it, so I wasn't sure like where it was and who's responsible for it right now. And okay.
Yeah. It kind of, so it left committee, it was presented and left committee, that's its current form. Now the process would be for the council president to docket it, or we would get, we could do a direct docket with 4-person memo, but you know, we're still kind of playing that out to see if we have time to fit it and if the council president will entertain that.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Tracy, is that the foot of Newport you're concerned about? All those kiosks that they set up and
yeah. I mean, Ocean Beach down at Newport has turned into and there's no regulation, and unfortunately, you know, a lot of the businesses on Newport feel like it detracts from their business, and they set up shop predominantly during the market, which also detracts from the market. So market people are paying for the you know, to be able to be there and conduct business, but the swap meet people are not, and it's becoming an issue. But you know, the street vendor stuff has been going on for a while, and it just kind of reached a level of craziness with COVID. And you know, I know that this bill was something that, you know, everybody was kind of excited about, and we all had something to say about it, and we really wanted it to happen, and then it just died. So we were all, you know, we're all kind of wondering what's going on. So that's all.
So you and I are going to meet each other and do slack line down there in the grass.
Yeah, and gymnastics, sure.
Yeah, right.
Sure. Yeah. I'm down.
Okay, good. Thanks.
I'm unmuted now. May I speak? Okay, is that okay? Josh,
go ahead, Carla.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'd like to ask, you said about the post office, is there going to be parking enforcement? Because I'm over here in Roseville and I'm in parking hell. They're parking boats and RVs and living in cars and living in RVs, and you know, and you can't do it on Get It Done. I can't, nothing's happening. I understood the parking enforcement was extended till September 1st for the 3rd time. What's going on with parking enforcement?
We understand that the city will take up whether they will extend parking enforcement, I believe, at the end of the month to determine if they'll extend it another month. But we, as stated, are not enforcing anything other than the egregious violations, the red, whites, and the blues spaces. I do think if there is something that's like pretty like egregious, I mean, I'm not sure that a car parked longer than 72 hours or a boat that's oversized, I just don't think that that's going, I don't think that we have the staff to necessarily enforce those types of things right now. But if it's egregious enough, or you think you want somebody to take a look at it, just send me an email and I can see if we can get somebody out to still look at it. Just because, yeah, it's a sensitive topic on parking enforcement right now for folks, given the current economic situation. But we can definitely look into it, or at least see if we can help have a conversation or something about it.
Thank you. I appreciate that. And then I
Sure.
believe it was the OB town council meeting. Council member was talking about not to worry right now about complete communities. What did she mean by that? Is now not the time to be concerned about that, or is nothing going to happen till after the election, or do you have any insight?
I don't actually, I have to go back and look on the timeline. Thanks for that question. I think what she means is that there are still pieces of it that were returned to staff that are under further review. And I don't think that it's happening right away. But nothing's being implemented right away, I should say. But I'm happy to get back to you on the timeline. I do know that there's certain elements of it that are moving quicker than others. I know the housing element may be a little bit more delayed than the parks element. But let me see if I can get back on the exact timeline for you.
Because I'll echo CPC comments and concerns about, we really, I personally, and I don't think this board, and I know CPC doesn't approve or appreciate the city or state putting things through without some local input. We'd like to be able to have some input and give our opinions before this stuff is shoved down our throats. Thank you.
I continue to make that. You're very welcome. No problem.
All right. Any other
So
questions?
heard.
All right. Thanks, Josh.
Sure. You're welcome. Thank you all.
All right. As we head to the home stretch, right, we've got the subcommittee reports. I'm just going to start that off and keep the airport one short. But for the airport, the Part 150 study is continuing, and airport operations are down 65 to 78%. So people who live in Loma Portal, like Lucky, I'm doing the best I can to keep the noise down until operations get a hot increase. And the other good news is that most airlines are eliminating their older aircraft. So for example, the British Airways 747 has been retired and will not be coming back. So a lot of the older, more noisy airplanes will not be returning whenever we get back to normal. So that's about where we're at. So with that, I don't know, is there a committee wants to go first? Mandy, you want to give us an update on traffic? All right, maybe I see Mandy, but maybe she's not. Margaret, why don't we do long-term planning then?
I'm sorry, I'm here.
Oh, okay,
go ahead,
sorry.
Mandy. Mandy, your meeting was awesome.
All right,
Yeah.
Mandy, why don't you tell us about your meeting then?
Yeah, we basically discussed, made an introduction of, sorry, let me put yourself on meeting. We basically made an introduction of ourselves, and we had quite the audience. We had some members that lived off of Sunset Cliffs Boulevard that came to advocate for some traffic safety issues along Sunset Cliffs Boulevard and some of the existing issues that they're dealing with over there. We also discussed the Voltaire and Froude intersection as well, and the board can be looking out for a letter, hopefully that gets approved from the traffic subcommittee next month, to hopefully expedite some of the traffic safety mitigations that have already been approved for that location. So lots of good things going on with traffic, and I am very honored to be the chair, and I look forward to improving traffic on the peninsula.
All right, well, I'm just going to say that she's understating, and I'll let you go, Lucky, next, but I mean, she's done a lot of work on traffic, and I think I saw an attachment she sent with five pages, single space of ideas on traffic issues. So I was very impressed, and a lot of initiative, especially like on things like Sunset Cliff. So Lucky, go ahead.
Yeah, Mandy, just a quick question. I go past Voltaire Froude all the time. Can you give me a quick idea what the plan is for that?
Well, back in 2017, the board approved the flashing beacon and a crosswalk to be installed at that location. That did get funded and approved to be installed. But after further discussion, I am also a member of the OB Planning Board's Traffic and Transportation. They want to, in collaboration with us, submit a letter to the city as well, requesting that they expedite those mitigations due to the recent death of a community member. Yeah. And the thought was, instead of the beacon, that they would install a stop sign and a crosswalk instead of the beacon. It would, one, be more consistent as far as mitigation goes, because the flashing beacon is pedestrian led, so it would require the pedestrian to hit the button to activate the lights. And there's a multitude of different types of issues, that not just speeding, you know, as you go down that hill, people tend to accelerate. So the thought was, ask for the city to install a stop sign and the crosswalk instead of the flashing beacon, because one, it would stop the traffic, and two, it would be also a more cost-effective traffic mitigation than the flashing beacon. So I do have a letter that I'm working on. I'm going to send Tracy the draft letter tomorrow just for reference, and that will be at the next traffic subcommittee meeting that we hold in September. We will discuss that and vote on that request to the city.
Okay, for those of you that don't know, most of you probably do, but going south on Froud at that point is probably the best quick shot to get to Newport there is. Going north-south, it's there's hardly, I don't think there's a stop sign once you make that left turn at Voltaire all the way to Newport. That anybody that goes down to Sunset Cliffs is not a local. Anyway, that's my story there.
Thanks for the
Brad.
tip.
Brad, you have a question?
Just, yeah, I was just asking a question to Mandy. Seems as though where the accident was and where the traffic starts to accelerate is more up Bolinas, Soto, Etowanda area. So it seems as though if there was going to be a stop, that you maybe it would be at a point where people were going to start to accelerate instead of where they end up be going too fast. Where at Froud and, you know, they're at the bus stops and stuff, because that's how that project got approved down there, is because of the traffic count at that intersection because of the two bus stops. So I'm just wondering if it might be more effective. And I think the city, you know, a few months ago, I think that Gary Pence said that the traffic was evaluating farther up the street for a stop sign. So I didn't know if you'd heard or not.
Well, I did speak to him. The big issue that he did speak of is that the letter would have to go through the council member because of the request being funded and approved. But as far as the requests, the other intersections that are nearby, there have been several requests. When I spoke to him, he did speak of those being a possibility. But again, it seemed like the city was moving towards mitigations at Voltaire and Froud specifically. But if you're wanting to make that recommendation, I highly encourage you to participate in the next traffic meeting. So
no, I've expressed my my comment to Gary at the time, seeming that made more sense. But yeah, okay, just curious.
Do we know? Do we know with that accident if he was crossing the street or if he was just skateboarding down the street and somebody just hit him from behind?
I have heard that he was in the street. I believe my husband and I witnessed him that night or around that time skating along that hill, going up and down Voltaire right before it kind of curves, you know, back down towards Catalina. And so it was at Seaside and Voltaire, or sorry, Seaside and Voltaire was the the actual location of the site.
Right.
So, but I am aware that there are 31 traffic incidents that have been reported in addition to the fatality. And I believe that it would be prudent and it would be helpful for the community and the city to, they are aware of that, they are on it. We need to just expedite that mitigation as soon as possible so that there's not any deaths in the future.
Yeah, unfortunately, sometimes it takes a tragedy for action to get taken. So
Well,
But
I was going, I went back. I mean, this letter was approved back in 2017, so I guess that's giving us a timeline of how long it'll take the city to respond to our traffic requests, the turnaround time.
Right.
So,
Well, the first thing I did on the planning board in 1992 was the crosswalk at Harborview Drive in Talbot, and that was a lot of work getting that put in because these little kids are crossing a very, very busy street, and it took a lot of effort. So I commend you guys for fighting the battles.
yeah, it's not a very fun position at times, to make those decisions for the community, but I do take it very seriously, and I hope the community sees that as well, that it's a benefit.
Yep.
All right. Any other questions for Mandy? All right. I'm gonna go to Margaret. Long range planning. You guys have been doing a bunch of stuff too. So you want to give us a little rundown on that?
Yes, we had a well-attended meeting, lots of community members. We had a long agenda, so it was a really long meeting. We basically went over very important items, which will remain on our radar and agenda for future conversation and updates. The STVRs was a hot, heated topic. We got into that with community feedback. We definitely don't want to forget that. We want to keep it on our radar. I'd like to put it on eventually, Fred, our board agenda somehow, some way. We're just trying to figure out how to present it to you guys for conversation and maybe take action. I don't know yet, because it was just an informational item for our first meeting. So I'll get back to you on that with the committee. We also, most importantly, went over detailed presentation by Cameron Havlick for the community. Hold on just one. Sorry, I had to yell because my TV was blasting. The complete community's presentation by Cameron was major, super important. I posted it all over social media, and the community was not aware of what's coming our way and the changes in this plan. So this is really important. I would highly recommend that Cameron present to the PCPB board as an informational piece, if anything, because it was really super informational, and he did an amazing job with the detailed items and presenting. So we were really proud of that and happy that he did that. And then Carla provided her CPC report, which we took action tonight on a few of those items. And then another big one was the Midway. I invited DK and then Kathy Keaton, which I was really surprised, the chair of Midway, also attended to answer questions and basically provide more information on the project. They made it clear that to be really adamant about saying that the 30-foot height limit is up to the city now. They are 100% behind it for development purposes. Tracy, you were there as well, and Corla. They are actually active members of this organization that's really trying to push for it. They made it clear that it has nothing to do with the development of the different parcels that will be developed eventually for Midway. The development's going to be beautiful. I mean, they've got great plans for it, but the height limit thing is already going to be on the ballot. It's Measure E, correct, girls? Measure E. So if you can just start communicating that to the neighbors. I didn't put it as an action item for the board because it's going on the ballots. There's nothing we can do. There's nothing we can really say except educate your neighbors in the community that they need to vote. So it's definitely going on the ballot. They confirmed that, and it's Measure E. Other than that, I think that was pretty good. That's all we did on that. And I did also attend the Midway Planning Board meeting yesterday. If I may, real quick, just report that they didn't put any of that stuff on their agenda, and they're not going to. They don't want to really hear, feedback from the community, complaining about the 30-foot height limit. It's a done deal pretty much on the ballot. So they're not going forward with any of that, I don't think, for future meetings, unless it's like an informational item piece if they decide to put it on there. But I will provide information as I get RFP proposal information. I'm really in the loop with that. And then anything else that has to do with that development, because I think there's a lot going on there. They did have one action, I'm sorry, it wasn't an action item, it was an informational item. There was a speaker by the name of, there was one item on there. It was his name was Duncan Hughes from Europe. They're trying to work with, I didn't know that Hancock Street down in Midway had its own association of business members. And they're screaming, kicking, and fighting for more parking for the businesses down there. And these guys, Duncan Hughes, spoke on how they're trying to bring a European biking plan that's going to provide up to 80-degree additional parking spaces for Hancock Street for parallel parking on the east side, and then provide a better, safe biking facility for bikers on that street. Apparently it's really, really, really dangerous right now. But the concern of the community and the business owners is that there is a current gigantic, huge project, the PCPB, I think it's the water project actually that they mentioned, is going on there now. So what these guys want to do is piggyback off that project, get this approved, and they said it'll be the first time that this new European, even though we didn't touch base on what it does, but this new European biking facility is going to be the first time ever here in the United States. They use it in Europe pretty religiously, and it works, and it's safe, and yada, yada. But the community, of course, and a few of the board members had some major concerns and wanted more information. So that's it pretty much there for that. That's all they talked about. Yeah, so they were basically the board, few of the board members and the business members from the Hancock Street Association basically said, please hold off until that project is completed, because there's a lot of construction going on there and it's super unsafe for bikers. It's like a death trap right now currently. So they're looking at bringing this new bike facility down to Hancock Street as a test to see if it works in San Diego. That's it for me.
All right, well, Margaret, I mean, in my opinion, I mean, all those issues, short-term rentals, complete communities, the 30-foot height limit, property, you know, bike lanes, I mean, they're all big issues. So I'm happy to work with you and your committee. If you think that there's an informational item that needs to be on the agenda to talk about it so we can inform the community about any of those issues, let me know. And to the extent that you guys can come up with a consensus as something that we can say, then, you know.
I definitely think we should bring it to the board for some sort of action, because I do see that areas like Claremont and Mission Bay PB, I've attended a few of those meetings recently, and it sounds like they're all taking action and it's on their radars, especially for the STVRs. And we actually had a speaker, a homeowner, come to our long range planning meeting with some good points on why we should keep it. So hearing both sides, I think at one of our board forums would be amazing for the community to attend.
Yeah, okay, good. Do we have any other questions for Margaret? Okay, do we have any other committee reports? Corla.
Sorry.
CPC.
CPC meeting is August 25th at 6 o'clock. STVRs are on the agenda. DK and Kathy Kenton will be presenting. They have a 30-minute time slot, it looks like, on their, and they're presenting not as Midway board members, but as private people. I believe they both have a financial stake, or let me not say that. I think that they will benefit from that project, and that's why they make it very clear that they're speaking for themselves. I addressed most of the things that we needed to vote on, but there's a couple of interesting things. Homeless are now allowed in commercial zones. They're going to allow homeless people to live there. And there's an affordable density bonus in transit priority areas for very low and moderate levels, which probably won't affect the peninsula too much. I touched on the city's going to update the parking table and that they are striking companion and junior units and adding, changing all that. It's been touched on that the ADU, you can allow an ADU, a junior ADU, and a tiny house on wheels in a single family lot. Multifamily can have up to 2 additional units, and they must allow the 800 square foot regardless of FAR. incentives for small lot development. And unfortunately, most of this is going to be ministerial, so we won't see them. There's also something called an efficiency dwelling unit. And this is new to me. It's 150 to 800 square foot something on a small lot. That's all I know. That's all that was said. And then my report comes down to, I voted yes at the last meeting to implement municipal code changes to come into compliance with state law. I voted yes on state mandates only because they've already happened and there's nothing we can do or talk about. So otherwise I will not be making a vote unless I know how this board feels.
Well, we appreciate that, and you're doing a good job representing us, Corla. Thank you. Any other questions for Corla?
I would like to make an announcement that I will be hosting my first Parks Committee meeting on October 1st from 6 to 8 p.m. So be on the lookout for an invite in the coming weeks.
Okay. Lucky?
Yeah, I would just like to say that just because the state has passed laws, ordinance, or whatever, and they're coming down the pike towards San Diego, I, for one, intend to vote my conscience on every single thing that comes before me. I don't care whether the state said it's law or not. I'll still vote against it if I don't like it.
Well, the CPC's taken a position on that. They and I already mentioned that nobody likes this stuff coming down without input. So we would all like to have our say before they pass these laws on us. So.
Okay. Any other comments by anybody? All right, well, I'm just gonna say thank you. I think it was a good meeting. We got a lot of input from a lot of people on a lot of issues, so we're making progress, and I will see all of you soon, so thank you.
All righty.
Okay. Thank you.
Leave button. There we are.
Thanks, Fred.
Thank you.
Thanks, Robert.
Thank you. Yeah.
You're welcome, pal.
So what's going on with Don?
I don't know.
Okay.
I guess maybe he's sick. Corla, you know?
Are we clear? I mean, how many people?
I want to
It just looks like the three of us.
super